We were the most attacked fob in the country at the time. There were close calls, everything, every day, all the time. The bad guys knew exactly where you were. You were supposed to do stuff in like the daylight. You were supposed to be like nice and engaging and sit down and have tea instead of like kicking indoors. And we're getting rocket shot at us every single day.
And what happened is something at the top malfunctioned the helicopter, and it jettisoned down at maximum speed, hit the bottom one, wrapped itself around the rock pillar, and threw everybody and everything out of the helicopter at warp speed.
Our guys are taking shots. Those are bolt action rifles. What's your location? And so he starts reading out the 10-digit grid. He got through the first 5, and then he got the 6th digit. I heard a shot, and he stopped talking. Didn't hear anything, didn't hear anybody respond. And ultimately, bad things are going through my head. I'm like, he got shot. Like, that's what happened.
Welcome to Mic Drop, the podcast where relevancy is irrelevant and we don't give a shit about your feelings. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He spent 9 years in Naval Special Warfare, specifically at SEAL Team 4, conducting 3 combat tours to both Iraq and Afghanistan. He's got a Bronze Star with V for Valor, and he's the current COO and co-founder of ZeroEyes, which provides AI gun detection software that saves both time and lives. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Rob Huberty.
Awesome. Thank you for having us here.
Yeah, you got your cohorts. Yep. They're going to join us here after we talk about your story a little bit. I'm real curious to get into the company you guys started because it's such a prominent aspect of our society and a hotbed topic, both politically and culturally or socially. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have going on with that. What's the funniest last name joke that you ever got in training?
I mean, I was puberty everywhere since I started to almost to the point where it just became boring. It wasn't even that bad in the teams just because it's so obvious.
Yeah.
So,
Did anybody have anything that was like authentically funny though, that actually you're like, all right, that's clever?
No, I mean, it was like pubes or puby, like that, like for the most part.
Yeah.
Hey, puberty,
yeah.
Get over here. Like,
yeah.
And, I mean, that's not.
In the teams too, they call you that?
It wasn't that many people, but certainly I definitely got like puby for sure.
Yeah. Did you have a nickname otherwise?
No, not really. Yeah. Not cool enough.
Yeah. What's the last full book that you both read and actually finished?
I think
Playboy doesn't count. Or Penthouse Letters, maybe.
The Hard Thing About Hard Things may have been the last thing I read, which is like.
It sounds like Penthouse Letters, maybe.
Right. It's seductive. Made me feel really good. That's like, is that
like a mental toughness thing or what?
Mark Andreessen or no. Ben Horowitz. Horowitz.
Have you guys read it too? Yeah. Pass it around the.
He actually ZeroEyes platoon. You bought it for me, didn't you? Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
It's business. They're venture guys, and like he tells a business story of like how he is. He's just like anybody who writes a business book is totally full of shit because everything just kind of goes out the window. And like anybody who's like, do these 8 steps, like the first step, it will go to shit immediately. And the plan doesn't matter.
No plan B.
And then he just, that's probably the last thing I read. I have a lot of things I have like active shooter books and stuff like that are on my dresser that I've read as well, but those are not as interesting. So I research data on that all the time. Yeah. I just bought a book for school resource officers that I'm going to read next.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
I'll wait till you guys come in for the kind of back part of the interview, but I'm curious to see what your guys' perception or take on dogs being incorporated in, because it's something that I've had a lot of people reach out to me about. But what is your best childhood memory?
So I grew up with 2 brothers, and so 2 older brothers, and basically my oldest brother is an FBI agent, and he kicked the shit out of me every day of my life. He's 4 years older. Oh my God.
Every day.
Oh my God.
That was the FBI for you, I guess.
Right. It was more like wrestling and, whatever it was fun. It was good. I think it was like good spirited for the most part. It was Christmas recently. And so I'm going to say like Christmas memories growing up in like outside of New York, we would go back. That's where my family is from. and doing Christmas together of like the Italian 7 fish dinners in like New York that are like overly elaborate that we didn't understand what it was. And I kind of vividly remember a Christmas morning that my brother got a color TV, and nobody has ever freaked out more in like 1986, I think it was. Yeah. So I'm 41. I don't think anybody in human history has ever freaked out more over a gift. And like we had talked about that recently. I think there's like a YouTube video of a kid getting like a Nintendo 64 that's like been on the internet for a long time. It was like that. I'll say that, like Christmas in New York when I was a little kid.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you don't love Christmas if you grew up as that being part of your family's tradition. Same thing for me. It's for sure takes the cake there. But I'm going to take a quick break. I do want to let you guys know the way that you can support the show is to support our sponsors. I know some people don't like to hear ads, but that's how I do what I do for a living. So any support you can show for our gracious sponsors is much appreciated. And again, it does support the show. So thank you. What are the 2 key components for canine success? That's effective training and proper nutrition. Fueled by Team Dog brings those 2 components to your family and best friend. The perfect nutritional balance that results in a higher mental acuity, energy, overall vitality, and even an improved appearance. Every product you will find in my company's store was born from the battlefield and not from the boardroom. Let my life's work help you become your dog's hero. What does your morning routine look like on a normal day when you're in town? So let's say the first 2-3 hours.
So at this point, I have 4 kids. So I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and 9 months.
Holy
so I have 3 girls and a boy. So the boy is at the end. And so my wife is now, she never like exercised when I get to know her. I knew her before the team. So I've been with her for like almost 20 years at this point. And my kids come into the room she wakes up at like 4:30. Yeah. And I live in a row house in Philly. So she gets up at like 4:30 and like rides a Peloton bike or goes for runs and stuff like that. And I exercise at like the end of the day, but my kids pretty much barge into the room at say about 5:15. Yeah. And so the start of my day is not my choice. It's whenever they get up or when they're yelling in the hallway. There's a lot of false starts going on right now. So, I guess, Jocko gets up every day at 4:30,
because he wants
and
to.
Exercises. Yeah. And I get up because my kids have been up in the middle of the night all night long. And
the need of the nuts to wake you up.
Right.
Yeah. Man, 4 kids, that's rough. Hats off to you on that.
It's totally awesome.
No, I can imagine.
I love it.
I have half that many, and I don't know how I'm still alive, honestly. But is there a particular routine that you prescribe to as far as like doing certain things for you, or is it completely dictated by them? Like what are your priorities?
At this point, a lot of it is dictated by them. So I think kind of no matter what, we started a company and, I live on my cell phone. Like I pick it up the first thing and I'm in on, Slack messaging what happened in the middle of the night. We do a 24/7 thing. So no matter what, like I'm looking at that through the middle of the night. Every time I go to the bathroom, like I am on my phone. Like I know that's not healthy, but like when you're starting a business and that's all you got, like that is what you do.
Yeah.
I do like exercising in the morning. I do like getting, sunshine in the morning. I think that like that's important. So I have like a row house in Philly on the roof deck. Like if I can throw the rower up there and start doing that, like it's a pretty good way. I don't kill myself or anything with it.
Yeah.
But
do you eat anything first?
I don't. I basically do intermittent fasting for the most part. And it's not even like really that I'm not that adamant about doing like X amount of hours. It's just that like I've trained myself to do that, and I like black coffee. So I'll do black coffee in the morning, but I don't eat.
Yeah. In terms of the kind of the physical aspect of your day, I know you said you don't kill yourself, but is rowing or something similarly appropriate kind of what you typically do? Or
Absolutely. Like I try to do challenges. So like last year I did 100,000 push-ups in the year. And so this year I'm going to do a 1,000,000 meter row. So it's just to do it every single day and hold yourself accountable. I keep like my iPhone, I keep notes in. So 275 push-ups a day. If you miss days, you got to make them up.
Yeah. 2,750
meters of rowing a day. It's only, 12-ish minutes, we'll call it. Yeah. you miss days. You know, every time you touch a row, you probably should row for 20 or 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's a good methodology.
And I do like marathon kind of training too. I'm out of that a little bit right now, but like I'll probably run some marathons and stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna hard pass on the marathon.
Right.
Childhood, in terms of, are you originally from Philly or are you from New York?
No, I'm not from either actually. So like my parents are New Yorkers and they grew up that way, but I grew up I was born in Chicago, moved to Phoenix, Arizona from the time I was 2 to the time I was 10. And then I lived in a town called Monroe, Connecticut from the time I was 10 to 18. So I say Connecticut, but it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah. What, I'm assuming your parents' jobs dictated that?
Just jobs. My dad, worked all over the place.
What did he do?
He worked for GTE, which became Verizon. He just followed that around.
And did your mom, was she a stay-at-home mom?
She went back and forth. She was a nurse, and so she did work sometimes, and then she'd go back and forth with it.
And you had one older brother. How many?
Two older brothers. My oldest is an FBI agent. My other brother is like a lawyer and a bunch of other things.
Yeah. You're the youngest?
I am.
Yeah. Did you guys play any sports growing up?
Yeah. So, I was sports obsessed. So, when I was a little kid, I played soccer, then football, like everything in my whole life revolved around football. Then it became wrestling, and I was pretty good at wrestling. So like that was kind of like the one that stuck the most.
Yeah. I know, from having gone through Buds and been an instructor, water polo, swimming, and wrestling seem to be the three kind of biggest or most prominent sports that guys come from that succeed. Did you find that there was a parallel or a connection between, in particular, wrestling and it preparing you for kind of the mental toughness required to go through SEAL training?
I mean, I think so. I think that, as much as like Buds doesn't really make SEALs, it finds people who are already SEALs a little bit, like in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so, I got beat up by my older brothers like every single day, and we wrestled, and like, then it started getting closer. Yeah. And as soon as it started getting closer, like, they went away to college, and like, I never really got my comeuppance that I always wanted. Brian, I'll get you.
Yeah.
And now he's doing like a lot of BJJ now, but I don't know if I can.
I mean, so you guys, what classes were you guys collectively in?
I was in 259.
271. Yeah.
259, I think the last hard class.
For sure it was,
I think like Ernest Hemingway wrote a book about it.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Yeah, that was the last. That was it after that. When it switched to online after that.
That's it. It's a joke now.
Yeah. Well, fuck, that's a whole other episode at this point. But, just the military, I'm baffled at some of the shit that comes out of what's going on there now. But I am curious. You mentioned your brother doing jiu-jitsu. From your guys' perspective, through your pipeline of training, I guess I'll just kind of toss this to the three of you collectively. Where would you put the focus in terms of combatives? Was it significant? Was it just enough? I mean, did you guys train a lot while you were on active duty operationally, or was it just kind of an afterthought?
I think it was an afterthought. I mean, it depends on where you were. Do you disagree? So I did because I think it's fun.
Yeah.
But, if you ever get into a fight when you have a gun in your hand, you should have shot them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like, I think it's one of the biggest misconceptions of...
That's why I have a gun.
Yeah. I think the only gray area is rule of engagement wise when there's an unarmed but non-compliant.
Sure.
Then I'm going to default to a muzzle strike, but...
you become a liability if you're on the ground and like your buddy has to well, I can't shoot him.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's a warrior thing. I think it's incredible, but like, was it applicable to any of my deployments? No, not really.
Well, that, and I think the amount of other skills that you have to perfect cost benefit wise, it's not worth the squeeze, But
I mean, people are really into it, and I think it's great. But like, that didn't really make you a better SEAL.
Yeah. Maybe better at not getting hazed, but maybe.
Get taped up. It'd be tough to tape you up, but not impossible.
Yeah, there's always going to be enough guys to tape anybody up, that's for sure. Do you have a good hazing story you don't mind sharing? It is refreshing to hear that it still went on, at least while you guys were in, because Jesus Christ, there were guys that I think made a career out of it when I was coming up. But
I mean, nothing really that crazy. I mean, I definitely got taped up and like...
Any mini blast machine?
Yeah, no, that for sure. That was a thing. T. Roy Button, that was his he just retired. But that definitely the mini blasting machine. But like none of it that really like marks me in any way, shape, or form. I think that like the best one is the Brian Bourgeois, who was the commanding officer of Team 8, who, passed away last year. For his birthday, he was like our OIC when I was a new guy. And I mean, they happy hatted him and took him to every bar, and like they'd have pictures, put like a mop on his head. Yeah. And like that was, I was a new guy and I was getting taped up, and that, there was a little bit more vitriol, but Bouge, putting a happy hat on him and taking him to bars, that was pretty hilarious.
Oh, that's great.
I think we did some birthdays that way. Yeah. They were actually new guys in the platoon.
Yeah. So they were the spankers to you when you were there.
Right, I guess. I don't know. On the spine board, we took him into a dolly into a bar.
Yeah. Yeah. For those not hearing what he's saying, if you can repeat it.
Yeah, so one of our new guys who turned 21, he was the youngest guy, we taped him to a spine board and put him on a dolly. So we took him bar to bar, taped his mouth to where it was a straw, and he was, drinking, and they didn't understand. He was having a great time.
Yeah.
Like that's...
Clearly. Yeah.
I think one of the bars actually made us cut him out.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, they were like, we're going to call the cops on you. We're like, well...
We did a similar thing with a third O once that I don't even remember what he did to get in this position, but it was a cruise box full of water and jammed him in there with a regulator in his mouth and closed the fucking lid. It was something like that. I don't remember if it was a cruise box or what the fuck. It was about that size, some sort. Maybe it was a dip tank with a fucking lid on it. I don't remember, but it was horrible.
That's pretty bad.
I can imagine
that
would fucking suck, But I think he had it coming though. Like I said, I don't remember what he did to wind up there. But those were the days. At any rate, all right. So you're in high school. You're in Connecticut. You're wrestling. Is there a point at which there's that light switch? Like, fuck, I need to join the SEAL teams, or how did that shake out?
So. I grew up, and I guess I read too many comic books and watched too many movies of like heroes and stuff, and I believed them. I watched Red Dawn too many times.
Is there such a thing? Can you watch that too many times?
I don't know. The 80s action movies, you thought like whatever it was that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in Commando was like a thing.
Yeah.
And, so that was always in the back of my mind. And when I was wrestling, I actually tried to go to like West Point and wrestle.
Oh, really?
And I got waitlisted. And so it's like, do I really like the military thing? I read all the books. I read like, I don't remember what year Rogue Warrior came out, but I read, Dick Marcinko and like, like the Tom Clancy books and whatever it was, and like the Vietnam Frogman books.
Yeah.
And I went to college. I went and did like Army ROTC. Like I was like, what is this? And my brother was in the Army. He went to the Citadel in front of me. And I was like, this is stupid. I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I was like thinking, maybe the SEAL teams, like I could do that, see what it's like. And then September 11th happened.
Oh, okay.
And so I had kind of gone down that path a little bit, and then I'm like, I will never do this. The biggest group of idiots I've ever seen. Yeah. And so I was trying with the Army. I was going to be an officer, and then I was like, no, maybe I'll enlist in the SEAL teams. And so that's what I did.
Yeah. Was there a kind of an idea in your mind of what you wanted to do within the SEAL teams? Like at that point, I'm assuming it was still a SEAL source rating, right? Did you pick?
So I had to be an OS.
Yeah.
So
you went to Dam Neck for A school,
right? The the 3 months of whatever it was of
staring at a screen,
right? Yeah. I say it's like the assholes from Spaceballs. Yeah, that's basically, I was one of the assholes. But you go through that, and I don't know, the whole A school and getting to buds. I don't know. It's
like a blur.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you. I was an IS at Dam Neck, same shit. But in terms of your recollection of how Buds was and what that entire process, how would you kind of encapsulate that, minus the crazy details that I've had a number of team guys on the show historically. So just kind of in your own words, from your perspective, what was it like?
I think it's pretty perfect. You know, it's not fair. There's so many things that can go wrong through it. And I actually like mentor kids right now in ROTC where I'm at, and I have a kid in second phase right now who's going through. So like I'm tied to it still. And you know, like I think that a lot of what I hear doesn't sound awesome of like they're making everything easier, but I'm not convinced that that's actually true. Yeah. Like there's verbiage that goes on about it, but like I think that people show up. It's really hard to pick out who is able to get through the training, and I don't, you know, I think the community struggles of like who will and won't make it. But I think when you're there, like the idea of like quitting and not quitting, I don't really believe that goes through the minds of a lot of the people who make it through. I didn't get injured, so I made it through. But you know, the level of challenge is so unbelievably pronounced. Few things in my entire life have ever lived up to being what it was supposed to be. I don't think being a SEAL lives up to like what was in my mind. Like I wanted to go be a sniper and do all these things, and like, I mean, that's 1% of what I did. Yeah. But Buds is close. Yeah. And like you have the weekends off. It's not, you know, misery and muck. You know, I thought like I'd be like crawling in like my last bit of energy. Yeah. And like
it's like Hell Week for 7 months.
Right. Yeah. And it wasn't that, but like when it was like Hell Week lives up to the reputation. Yeah. I think.
No, I don't disagree. I mean, and kind of similarly, I think it was about like I expected. I mean, there were some things that, you know, were harder than I thought they would be or easier, you know, but they were kind of nuanced and outliers. I will say like San Clemente Island for me was a bigger kick in the nuts than I was expecting. Some of it was because we had a big class and it was in February and, you know, it was a shitty time to be there. But yeah, I agree. I appreciate and respect the way that you put that.
Their idea, I know the island, like we're. He said he would do Hell Week over again.
Yeah, same here. I mean, our island was worse than fucking Hell Week for sure. But
my second phase was bad. Like the first phase, I mean, it totally destroyed me. I'm not some Bud superstar. Like I wasn't. Yeah. Everybody follow me. Like I was in the middle of the pack. Yeah. But the third phase wasn't that bad for me in my mind. Yeah. Second phase was bad.
Yeah. I think, you know, each individual that makes it through has the one almost crucible or crux or, you know, like
it gets everybody. Like there's something that gets everybody.
There's something that's going to legitimately test whoever is there at some point to the absolute maximum. I think, you know, and some people it's too much. And I mean, fuck for that matter, for most people it's too much, but all right, so you graduated with your class. At that time, you went to Benning, and then
I was the last class to do that.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
And then you went straight to
Navy appreciation. Yeah, is what that is.
Yeah, no shit. Get your hands out your pockets, Navy.
Listen here, Airborne.
Yeah. All right, so then you go from there to the East Coast to Team 4. Right. Go through SEAL qualification training. You're in your first platoon. What was that like?
I had checked in as they were coming back from like a pretty rough deployment. And so when I checked in, I think that right after I checked in, like the week of, Clarkie Schwedler got killed.
Oh, no shit.
And so it was like a turnover op. And so like I'm a new guy at the team and everybody came home and like their last mission, they lost a guy. Yeah. And, you know, it was devastating. And so like you came into like the dark cloud of what that looked like. And, you know, they had, you know, their stories were crazy that, you know, there's really big missions that they went on and like really meaningful. And the guys, you know, saw a lot of action and you come into a platoon and that lost somebody and kind of pick up the pieces of what that looked like. And so being a new guy was like not super awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Was the platoon that you were in, were you one of a bunch of new guys or was it just like a couple of you?
It was a bunch of new guys, but I showed up to my platoon. They split basically like my buds class to like, it was Team 4 half and then Team 5 the other half generally. I mean, there's onesies, twosies over here. But like my actual like platoon and troop, there weren't a whole lot. So like, and whenever I checked in from leave and stuff like that, like I was definitely getting the brunt of a lot of people without a whole lot of other new guys. And eventually they joined and everybody, you know, misery loves company. You know, I got some friends to chip paint with and
sweep the fucking
go on the Cyclops a million times and whatever it was.
Man. So I guess coming into the team after a fresh loss like that's you know, super impactful and devastating and no doubt affected the mentality and kind of the whole vibe of checking in. What was that first workup like? And did you know kind of right away where you were going and it was all geared towards that, or did it get thrown around at all?
I mean, I think it got changed a little bit, but we had like the good deal.
Yeah.
So we were going to go and do the cool mission set, and in life, good deals are never good deals, and bad deals are not necessarily bad deals. Like you never know. Yeah. But we thought we had the good deals, so we took it really seriously, and it was just an unbelievably talented group that I was with the first one. Like every platoon I was in was highly talented, but for different reasons. Like everybody's like gone and started businesses from like that first platoon. Everybody has like Ivy League MBAs who were like the enlisted dudes, and then the officers were doing other crazy stuff too. And so it was a special group. And at the same time, sometimes special groups, you have so much energy and so much talent that you spend it, and maybe not, you don't use your powers for good. So there was a lot of shenanigans that happened during that, but it was, we knew what we were doing mattered. We knew that we had a great mission set. We knew that we had a really good team to do it with. It was awesome.
Yeah. And what was the sit down as far as what you were directed or told that this is where we're going, this is what we're going to be doing, that kind of drove training?
Right. So we knew we were going to go to Iraq. We knew we were going to go to Baghdad, and we're going to go do like the cool mission set. We're going to take a JSOC mission set and get to do it in the regular team. So we're going after like the real bad guys, and it was basically like bomb makers and money.
Yeah.
And so all of our mission sets were we were getting the best assets, the best planes, the best intel, the best deal, and like we were finding really bad people, and we're direct action. In and out missions in like 3 hours or whatever it was. Yeah. If you ran into a dry hole, you go find the next building, the next building, the next building. And it was awesome. And our op tempo was awesome. We lived the vampire, only at night, only on nods, clearing houses, kicking in doors, like the most team guy shit that you could do. Yeah. But, it wasn't actually super kinetic. But we wrapped so many dudes up and found so much money. It was really, really rewarding.
Yeah. When I guess during your training pipeline in that first platoon before you got over there to do all that stuff, were there any good deal quals that you got? Did you get sniper, or was it pretty?
So when I was a new guy, they said new guys don't get schools. Yeah. So I got pretty much nothing in the beginning. And so
hazmat and dive supervisor.
Right. No, I didn't even get dive sup, but I did go to hazmat.
Yeah, that's a fucking choice.
That's perfect. So towards the end though, I think I don't know if I went to breacher right before, but I guess I had done a good enough job, and they decided that they liked me, so I got to go do cool stuff. Yeah. I went to like a car stealing school.
Oh shit.
At the end, right cool. Before we kicked out the door, and like just like weird stuff, but not like the quals that I wanted, which was like sniper was like my number one thing, and then breacher, and amongst those, I got those later, but not as a new guy.
Yeah. All right. So your first platoon, can you kind of walk me through your mindset and mentality the instant you landed in Baghdad and you're like, holy fuck, I'm in Iraq?
It's so disorienting getting off the plane the first time. You're in a C-17, and it was relatively safe, right? Like that was like 07 or 08, I don't remember the year.
So you weren't getting lit up?
No. I mean, we were landing at a runway that was totally safe. And like where we were going, it was on BIOP, the Baghdad International Airport, and we had, like a cool camp. And it was good. It was good living conditions, and like you had good meals and all that stuff. It was really easy. But like you fly in, and you're on a C-17. Like people are sleeping on top of like the containers and stuff like that, putting hammocks up. And as a new guy, you have no idea what to expect. You're like, do I put body armor on? And like some of it, like you're one platoon guys, who 2 platoon, 3 platoon, all the people who've been there and done that. Either they're amping you up or telling you the truth, and like you don't really know which is which. Yeah. And so like you definitely have butterflies, but like I think that we weren't even in camis when we landed or something like that. I don't remember, but I don't think we were. But you get out and it's like 120 degrees, and like just there's a haze, and you smell the burning. Everything is just on fire kind of thing, and you breathe in all that crap. And because like we stayed at Baghdad International Airport, so like when we landed, we were basically where we needed to be.
Were you there the whole time?
Yeah, I mean, we did a strike force thing, and so like we would only go out for like a day and maybe like 2 days at the most.
But everything else was out of there.
Everything was out. It was a strike force mission. You'd go out, do a mission, come home every night generally.
All right, guys, the economy sucks, right? It's up and down. Anybody who's looking to invest is a little leery of investing in the stock market, myself included. I started working with Masterworks here recently. They specialize in blue chip art, which is very unaffected by the volatility of the stock market. And so the way that it works is you basically invest with other people into paintings that are very safe and secure and reliable in terms of sales. They've got a great record of being able to sell these incredibly expensive paintings and other artworks for profit, and it gives you an ability to leave the volatility to the stock market and kind of hedge against that. So it's a good way to, I hate to use the corny cliche, diversify your portfolio, but that's exactly what it does in a very safe and predictable manner. If you go to masterworks.art/mic-drop, you can skip the wait list. Again, that's masterworks.art/mic-drop. And you can get involved with, again, diversifying whatever you're looking to put money into to keep it in a more safe platform other than cryptocurrency or the stock market or anything else that tends to bounce around like a roller coaster in these volatile times. So in terms of SEC filings, you can still register everything above board the way that you need to investment-wise. There's over $650 million invested in blue chip through these guys and over 590,000 users. So this isn't some pop-up, fly-by-night joint that has 10 members. It's totally legit and above board. And I've been working with them for a little while now, and it's great. So again, that's masterworks.art/mic-drop, and you can get all the details at that website. And so how many days were you there before you actually went out and did anything?
Not really a whole lot. Because you did turnover ops, right? Yeah. And as a new guy, like they actually were pretty good. And I think we got to go out pretty quickly within the first probably like 10 days, maybe 5 days. So you get there, like try to get your sleep cycle down, get all your equipment, get, the ammo that you need and all that stuff for 2 or 3 days. Watch a couple cycles of them going out on ops, and maybe 5 to 10 days you went on missions. And then after that, it was like 2 to 5 times a week, depending on how that week went.
Yeah. Do you remember the first mission that you went on where shit actually fucking went down?
The silliest thing, the first day I went, they gave me, a heavy gun, so I had like a Mark 48 or maybe even 46, but I had like, one of the belt-fed guns, and I had a team lead with me, and they put me on a corner, and I didn't really realize that the Iraqi police looked the way that they did. And so they looked like Mark 1 motto bad guy. Yeah. And I had the safety off at one point, and like I was depressing the trigger on a belt-fed machine gun towards IP, and then like one of them was like, whoa. Those are not bad guys. And I would say that like I'm probably fortunate that whatever happened, because there's guys carrying like AKs dressed up the way that I think that it is, and like the way the brief was given, like I didn't understand what IP checkpoints were. Yeah. And so like the dumbest thing, like literally the first day that could have been a real bad day.
What was your collateral duty?
Ordnance. So I did that for 2 deployments. So,
so that first kind of almost oh shit moment, I'm sure struck a chord with you. But was there a first mission that stands out where it was like, holy fuck, we legitimately got some?
We were just really getting the bad guys, and it was like from their sleep in the middle of the night. So like that was actually like not super kinetic. Like there were odd things, like guys got hurt. There were little things, but like I was never in the mix on the stuff. And like it's one of those things where you try to be in the right place at the right time. Like you want to be in the mix. Yeah. And it just didn't really work out that way. But we would go into like the court system, and those people would be put to death. And so you're just like, okay, did I do the Navy SEAL thing that I wanted to do? And you're like, well, I don't know. But like when we'd find like bags full of money all over the place, and you're like, these are the right people, and this is kind of going the way it's supposed to, but it's not gunfights, because they didn't really want to fight us in the middle of the night.
Was there, in all these instances where you're coming across, loads of cash, was there an instance where, or I guess Does one stick out in your mind as being the most money? And did you have a grasp of how much it was?
Yeah. So I was also in charge of like the SSE in one of them, and we were in a room. So site sensitive.
House is paid off, isn't it?
No, definitely not. But we were in a room and we were searching it, and it was like things weren't adding up, and they were doing like they were questioning somebody who was in there. And I was searching a room, and we hadn't found anything in the house. And they're like, no, it's for sure this house. No, it's for sure this house. And I was not the one who searches rooms. I was the one collecting everything and putting in a bag, and I'd go and talk to the FBI afterwards of like, okay, this is what we found. And they're just like, hey, one of the people that we're questioning had a thumb drive in a woman's feminine hygiene product under her armpit, and they wanted her, and they're like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
And they found it, and they're like, oh, this is a big deal. Mm-hmm. And then she had more stuff physically inside of her.
No shit.
Physically inside of her.
Did you guys look at it and find, was there valuable?
So not at the moment, right? But like, you're like, oh.
Yeah, they're hiding it for a reason, obviously.
Rat fuck this house now. Like don't, the cursory stuff's over, like, look. And so I went into a room, and I started like getting drawers, and I started finding like clumps of money. So American. So I think there was like a thing that was probably $10,000. You're like, okay, cool. And then you go other drawers, you pull out another one, like, $20,000. Okay, cool. And you're going through the room, like, oh my God, this is a lot. Yeah. And then you go through, and maybe we found like $30,000 in the room. And it was like, you're supposed to go from like corner to corner. And like, I was like probably the fourth person in there, and I wasn't finished with the room on my search yet. And my senior chief, who was on the roof, walked into the room, and he's like, you find anything? I was like, well, we found all that. And then like, he kicked a bag that was literally sitting by the door. And so no one had thought to like, right where the door opened, there was a bag, and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh shit.
And so like it made it look like, we were being shady or something like that. And we literally just didn't see it. Yeah. And so like, it was really embarrassing that like 4 people had searched a room, and our senior chief literally came into the room and like kicked a bag full of money. Holy fuck. And you're like, he's like, you idiots. Did you find this? You're like,
yeah, no, I knew it was there.
Yeah. I was going to tell you.
Yeah. Was there anything else of note other than money? Did they have like caches of weapons or like
not as much as we would have liked to have seen. We did see some that there were houses that had stuff that was like rigged and whatever it was, but it was fairly benign. It was just not super kinetic. Yeah. Like, people didn't really fight us too much, and the ones where people did, I really wasn't just like in the mix of it. Yeah. Like, people got, there were some guys who got hurt a little bit. There were we had to drive in the Strikers. So this was with the Rangers. And so we would like alternate, nights of what we were doing. We found like a bunch of drone footage too, where they were tapping into like some of our drones feeds. And like, when we found that was a big deal.
Oh shit.
That was a big deal. Yeah.
Wow. So
it was more sophisticated, like in a lot of we would end up, another one, we found like Iranian diplomats who were like bad. Yeah. And I think the rumor was that like we went all the way to the president on like that mission. Yeah. And so we were like fingerprinting them and stuff, and they're like, you're not allowed to do that. And guys were like pulling out their knives. I'll cut your fingers off.
No shit.
And like, you're gonna get fingerprinted. And the rumor was that it went all the way up to Obama had just taken office. Like, it was like his first week there. And the rumor was that it went all the way to Obama when we were there. But like, I wasn't a part of that chain of thing. I was standing around trying to collect
bags of money. That's the first time I've ever heard of them, or United States forces finding, from an intelligence standpoint, hijacked or tapped into NATO forces drone footage that the enemy has possession of. I mean, that's not something that's very prominent.
No, and not only that, they didn't find it the first time that they went, and they went back and it was hidden behind a wall. So like the hidey holes and stuff like that you'd look for, I don't think SEALs are particularly good at finding things. Like, even though, were trained to do it. Like when you go in a house, like people tear stuff apart, and you had to learn to like not tear stuff apart.
Need some like correctional facility officers to come in and.
I mean, that's no kidding. And literally the best people at searching the houses were always like the shadiest dudes in the platoon. They're like, "Hey man, here's the passports." You're like, "Where'd you find that?" They're like, "In the air condition." Yeah. And you're like, "Really?"
Yeah. You have kids, don't you? Yeah. Yeah. I think a parent would be a close second for a correctional officer, maybe, but. Of teenagers anyway. I don't know about toddlers, but was there a strangest target that you went on where just in terms of not adding up as it relates to like what was in the room, whether it's culturally or how many people, or like do any targets stand out as being like, what fucking Twilight Zone shit is this? Was there anything like that?
I mean, from other deployments for sure. Yeah. I mean, that one was like a little bit more metropolitan. Like it was, we're in Baghdad, which is more of a city, where the other ones I was in the country where like it didn't make any sense in Afghanistan. Yeah. But like we went to like car dealerships, and we realized like there was some network in the car dealerships who were like doing things to follow the cars. And so we were putting like tracking device in car dealerships. What a car dealership in Baghdad looks like is not what a car dealership anywhere else looks like. You're like, this is a car dealership? Yeah. And so like what
was so strange about it?
I mean, it's literally like just parked on the highway, just a bunch of cars that are nowhere near new. Yeah. And, they're selling them on, whatever. And we actually like dressed up as like Army EOD. We put on like different camis out to like, cause we were like planning stuff in the cars. Yeah. Just to, track them, basically like cell phones, but like to see if like the informants would go into the cars, and they did. And it was like pretty successful. Yeah. But, seeing what that interaction is and how they lead their lives, and like, they have sewage in the streets, but they have, everybody has cell phones and computers, and occasionally you'd go into a house that was like a dry hole, and you realize like they were very different than everybody else. Yeah. I would say that like when you see a lot of money in like a marble house, and like you go into it, like we realize like those are money people. Yeah. But
did you get any good follow up as far as targets that you hit and people that you captured that you're like, fuck, that really validated like were there anybody that you can mention, or is that?
I mean, I don't think that any of it really matters. Like we were going after basically like Quds Force kind of stuff. Like the Iranians were coming in and paying for bombs and doing that, and had, a network of like how they paid to put bombs in the street to go after it. And we captured a lot of money and a lot of people, and like the doctors who would support it. And so I guess we'll go into this, is I actually got in trouble on this deployment because we had a pretty awesome Christmas party. So we had a Christmas party where a bunch of people got in trouble because we drank alcohol. And actually, I think...
Did you guys smuggle it in, or did you find it?
I mean, it's in Baghdad. It was like super, super easy. And so we had a massive Christmas party, and it was like everybody. And, eventually it was Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, I don't remember, and they were like, hey, let's have a party. And so a bunch of us went, everybody had all the stuff, put it together, and I mean, there was probably 70 to 100 people at this thing. Oh shit. And I'd get in trouble probably for this now, so I won't necessarily mention names, but I got put in front of like a board, and they're like, were you there? Were you drinking? And I was a new guy. I was like, I'm just going to tell the truth. Like, there's nothing to hide. Like I was there, I didn't do anything. Like, yes, I had, a couple of drinks. I got captain's masted and reduced in rank.
Oh,
and then,
shit.
Yeah, it was bad. And I still hold the grudge over this. And I was one of 7 people who got in trouble. And I ended up having to go to the tactical holding facility and had to go to the Iraqi courts. So I got to see all the people go through the court system afterwards and get put to death.
Really?
By the Iraqi court system.
What just because,
like? I mean, it was bananas.
What was that process like?
I mean, it was a kangaroo court. I mean, from my perspective, like we presented the information that we had. We did a really good job at doing it. And then they're like, you were bad, so we'll hang you. But it was by a, Iraqi judge and all of those things. And I mean, they're going to believe, what's put before them. And, I wasn't in the room for all of it. I was not allowed to be in the room. I would find out what happened at the end. Yeah. But I was like handling prisoners. So I would literally like walk them in there as they were cuffed. And I wasn't supposed to like touch the actual people because like I was one of the people who basically arrested them. Yeah. For the most part, like we were basically arresting people. And I want to say they put like 30 to 50 of them to death.
Did you see any of that? Any of them?
No, I didn't actually see the executions. I didn't see that. That wasn't on BIOP. I don't know. It probably was, but it wasn't where I was. Yeah. But I was in the facility that held them for a while, for like a month. Damn, and then I went back on missions. So they took me off missions. It was pretty brutal.
So you were what, an E5 and got busted to E4 or E4 to E3?
Yeah, E5 to E4.
Yeah. Damn, that's brutal.
Yeah.
And did any of the higher ups get fucked?
Nope.
Just the new
guys,
or just the young
Nope.
guys?
I don't know if they have a whole lot of ethics. I don't know if they have a lot of ethics that goes on. And in addition,
I think you do know that they don't have any ethics.
In addition, Admiral McCraven was supposed to show up that day, and he was supposed to splice the main line the next day. And so we were going to actually drink alcohol with Admiral McCraven. So we had a party before, so we got in trouble. I will say one of the dudes ended up getting out that got in trouble with me. And like, you know, there's a bond of all the people who got in trouble, the 7 of us who got in trouble. Jeremy Wise.
Oh, yeah.
And so Jeremy Wise.
Put him through training.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was hilarious, just an awesome dude. And he ended up getting out. Like, that was a really, really bitter thing. And then he ended up getting killed in the coast bombing. Yeah. And he was just a hilarious dude. And like, we went through it together.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Good party, though.
No, it sounds like it. Was it worth it? Yeah, maybe not. I can't. Like,
I learned a lot. I mean,
to me, the fact that the junior guys are the ones that got in trouble tells you so much about what you need to know about the military that it's fucking sickening. But that's neither here nor there. Was there anything else from that deployment that stands out as being noteworthy?
No, I mean, I saw at a very high level what we could do and like the awesome people we were and how self-destructive we could be, and then the bureaucracy, and then I saw like what our actual capabilities were. Yeah. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. It was a 6-month deployment?
I think it got extended. I want to say it was supposed to be 6, and it was probably 8. They all went that way.
Yeah. So you came home. What was was the decompression not that bad since it wasn't super kinetic?
Right. Like, you know, we had a blue on blue that somebody got hurt. Like one of my friends got shot on something stupid, and he was okay. He was okay like that night, and it was fine. And like other guys got hurt. There was a couple of like IEDs and stuff like on the drive in, but like it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. What was the turnaround time from when you got back from your first deployment until you went over again?
We had a full workup. So it was like, you know, the 18 months of pro dev, you know, ULT, you know, professional development where you get to go to schools, unit level training where everybody comes together, and then squadron integration training. Yeah. And that's I did with these guys, the next deployment.
Next deployment was Iraq or Afghanistan?
Afghanistan.
Yeah. How big, I mean, obviously there's a big difference, but was it glaring the second you touched down, like, holy fuck, this isn't?
So it was a similar, I mean, we ended up landing in, you know, a big airport in, you know, Kandahar. Yeah. So the same kind of feeling, you know, except now I was pretty confident in my skill set and that I knew what I was doing. And then the mission set was so wildly different that it was like nothing was applicable.
Did they sit you down and say, here's the big mish for this deployment, and what was it? Yeah,
so we did the village stability operation thing, and the whole idea is that you were going to live amongst Afghani, you know, people, and you were going to police that, and you weren't going to go very far. It was going to be really limited, the area that you could navigate, and you were supposed to, you know, a kindler, gentler machine gun hand or whatever it is. You were supposed to build rapport with the community and do that, and, you know, the coin or, you know, whatever that whole thing was, is what we did together. And we received, like, you know, that we did the Green Beret mission. Like, that is the, like, foreign internal defense. Like, that's what it is. And like, we have a lot of really capable people, but I didn't really sign up for that.
Yeah. What area did you go to? Can you say?
So we did Southeast Afghanistan. We did Zabul province, and we went to a place called Nabahar.
And was it hairy at that time? Or
yes, we were the most attacked like FOB in the country at the time, and I was like basically an arresting police officer in my first one, and it was awesome, and like we arrested everybody, and we did a really great job, and it was like pretty clear cut. And then you went to like a moral gray zone where like there were close calls, everything, every day, all the time, and like the bad guys knew exactly where you were. You were supposed to do stuff in like the daylight. You were supposed to be like nice and engaging and sit down and have tea instead of like kicking indoors and whatever. And we're getting rocket shot at us every single day.
Yeah. Were you guys at like a makeshift fob kind of?
Right. So it was built out of like HESCO barriers. We didn't have hot water, running water, really food that was, we had like the unit rations or whatever, stuff like that, MREs and like Mountain House meals for months and months and months. We had an awesome group of like CBs who like built an infrastructure of, getting your first hot shower in like 4 months after like getting attacked like every single day. Like, it's pretty okay.
Yeah. Did you guys build kind of an intel package internally of, okay, here's what we're here for, but here's what's really going on. Now let's fucking ambush the ambushers. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. So I think it really came down to this though. When we arrived on September 21st, which like we probably got in maybe early September, only there a couple of weeks. So I was with Mike Lahiff over here, and then Sam was in the other platoon, and they were at like just a different location that was, I don't know, we were like 20 miles away. It wasn't far, but it was far. We never got to see each other.
Yeah.
And we're going to do a mission maybe jointly, and we're supposed to be the quick reaction force. And so they had one of their helos had an accident. So it didn't get shot down. I think it was like pilot error, and it got browned out, and it killed a bunch of people in our platoon.
Oh, no shit.
Or our troop. And so that was 12 years ago now, even a little bit more. So one of my best friends that I went through training with, that like I did everything with, ride or die homie, Adam Smith, was in that. Then we had Dennis Miranda, one of our new guys, was in that. Brendan Looney. So they did a turnover op. So this was a turnover. It was like the first mission in. And so Brendan Looney was the officer. He was at team 3. And so we lost him. Blake McClendon was our TIO, the signals guy or whatever. And when you lose your friends like that, I mean, we lost our mind. Like we were going to be a quick reaction force, and I would have shot everybody that I saw. And Sam actually was one of the responding people to that. So like he was there, like the helicopter crash, he was in a different helicopter, and wherever they landed differently, like he had to go deal with that. And what is a helicopter? How do you deal with a helicopter crash?
Do you mind jumping in to address that part of the story? All right. So we got Sam, who was one of his teammates that responded to the Helo crash. I'd love to get kind of from your perspective, if you can walk through what that was like.
Sure. So we were in country. We were preparing for that op for about a week. It was our first op in country. It was my first mission, Dennis's first mission, Adam's second deployment. He was with you the first time. And we were just amped up, ready to go do it. And I was on a C2 bird. We had 2 supporting element birds, so 3 different helicopters going to 3 different mountain peaks overlooking a specific valley. And the goal was to go there, set up shop in the dark so nobody knew where you were, and then in the daylight, send out the main element to be on the ground and actually do the capture mission. So as we were flying in, I got off on the C2 mountain. I was running comms for that mission, and I looked over to the other element to see what was going on over there, and the whole mountaintop was on fire. So I was talking to the bird, like, what just happened? He said, the helicopter crash. So the bird came right back down, flew us over to the top of that pinnacle, and it was wild, right? I didn't know what to expect. That was like the introduction to combat, or it wasn't even a combat event. That's why it was confusing. We didn't know, did they get shot down? We didn't know, was it an accident? What exactly happened? My greatest fear was they were inside of that bird burning. Like, that was why I picked up the 70-pound pack and sprinted up that mountain as fast as I could with my buddies. Got up there, the whole of the helicopter was on fire, kind of rolled down probably 100 meters of the hill, but it was still a massive hill, so it was still there. And then up on top, there was flaming debris everywhere, and then we realized what we had to deal with. We had to do basically a rescue mission. Who was still alive? Where were they? And I came across the one American survivor. I'm not going to mention his name, but he was like in tremendous amount of shock. He was giving CPR to Adam, who was very obviously by that point in time dead. And it was trying to get him out because he broke his neck. So there was a double-pointed pinnacle. There was a massive point you were going to do a one-wheel landing on, drop the team off, and a lower point. And what happened is something at the top malfunctioned, the helicopter, and it jettisoned down at maximum speed, hit the bottom one, wrapped itself around the rock pillar, and threw everybody and everything out of the helicopter at warp speed. So the SEAL fell out at the top as he was trying to do the one-wheel landing, broke his neck. The helicopter came down, and then the wreckage happened. And it was basically going through, looking for Adam, looking for Dennis, looking for Brendan, looking for Blake, looking for the Afghanis who were on board, the gunners on board, the pilots on board. That was it.
I got to tell you, between riding motorcycles, working out a fair bit, traveling on planes, I listen to a lot of music and other podcasts doing research for this show. And I just came on to Raycon wireless earbuds. And I got to tell you, they are a fraction of the price of some of the other big name brands, we'll call them. But they sound fantastic. They work great. The sound quality is amazing. And they stay in. More importantly for me, like taking my helmet on and off or doing lots of different exercises, I always have a hell of a time keeping the earbuds in, and these stay in phenomenally well. They've got 8 hours of playtime, 32 hours of standby time, and they're a phenomenal product. I mean, they feel well built, they charge fast. They're a fantastic product. I'm real stoked to be working with them. And right now, if you go to raycon.com, that's RAYCON.com, you can get 15% off if you use the code MicDrop. So that's raycon.com/MicDrop for 15% off. And again, they're already considerably more affordable to some of the other brands out there. So I listen to them and use them all the time. Fantastic quality. I can't recommend them enough. That's raycon.com/MicDrop for 15% off. And so everybody except the one guy perished.
That's right.
Yeah. How many total?
I want to say 8 or 9.
Yeah. And so, I mean, at that point, so if you get the one survivor with a broken neck trying to administer CPR on a deceased teammate, once you kind of get him in, whether it's treated or evacuated or what have you, like what's going through your mind and what were your next steps? Like at that point, what could you do? What were you trying to do?
So by that point in time, we knew it wasn't shot down. Something just seriously bad happened. And it was now a hold the hilltop until you can get in the appropriate people to come in there, bring out the bodies, bring out the sensitive equipment. And that ended up taking forever. We were there all day. So that was probably 0400. We were there until probably 1800, 1900. Holding the hilltop, and I guess the thought process all day was like hold it together. Like everybody's just trying to hold it together.
How many of you guys were there holding that hilltop?
Of my platoon, probably 6 or 7, and then we had some support people flown in. Some PJs came in, and it was basically just like we'll digest this when we get back. Right now, let's take care of the bodies.
Were there any intrusions or attempts at taking it? Did you guys get shot at or fucked with when you were holding it?
Lots of ICOM chatter, but nobody showed up. I think they were just as confused as we were.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you telling that story. Adam was a student of mine also, which there's been a number of them at this point that guys that I put through training that I remember that have been killed in action that is tough to deal with for sure. As an instructor, there's a weird, almost, I mean, I hate to say paternal feeling, but it does kind of feel that way, and it's different losing teammates, or it's different losing students than it is teammates in a very difficult to describe way. But I sincerely appreciate you sharing that story, and we'll bring you back in here in a little bit. So thank you.
Cool.
All right. So after that, once you found out that had happened, what was going through your mind, and how did you kind of reconcile it all?
I mean, I think there was a large extent of, it didn't feel like an accident, right? Like it felt like that was the enemy, and I you live that with that in your head, and I think that your rationale for like returning violence with violence it goes incredibly up, and so and we're getting attacked all the time, and like the answer, we were in a static location in the middle of the day. They'd always attack us in the middle of the day. And then you're just like, how do you prevent this? what do you do? And like, well, we're going to get a lot more aggressive. And I think like that made us like insanely aggressive. And, you know, I think we ended up subduing that aggression, and like it went away and it totally stopped. And they're just like, don't fuck with those guys. Like they're, you know, we would hear, they put like messages up and they called us the sheikhs. And they're like, don't shoot at the sheikhs of Nabahar. And they're like, that's the SEALs. They wear different color uniforms. They wear different stuff, and they're not going to do what other Americans do.
No shit.
And
what is the sheikh translation?
A sheikh is like I don't know, the leader.
Sheikhs of Nabahar, you call it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like we were the, you know, I mean, that's the difference between like special forces, and everybody can tell the difference of how you look and how you operate.
Yeah.
And they're just like, they're aggressive, and they don't play by like the SOP that we've seen.
Yeah.
And so at some given point, you know, when they would shoot mortars at it, at, you know, oh, mortar 30 or oh, rocket o'clock, like every single day it was something, you know, we would go to villages and we would, sometimes you know who the bad guys are, and like you'd round everybody up, all the military age males, you put them in town, and then like someone mean mugs everybody else, and you realize like, oh, someone doesn't live here. And you didn't need to have your interpreter to go talk to them. Like you're just like, those are the bad guys.
What did you guys do with them?
It wasn't so much what we did with them as what the locals did, right? And
Did
so
you guys see any instant fucking hands of justice?
I mean, I think that probably went on.
Yeah, nothing that you guys were witness to, though.
I mean, no. It was so apparent who the bad guys were. It was like almost like a comic book villain, like, you know, twirling their mustache, and you're just like, and then you'd go ask, you're like, what house do you live in? And they were like, I live in that house. And they're just like, you'd go up to one other person in the town, like, what house do they live in? And they're like, I don't know them. And they're just like, oh, the town of like 20 people.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know them.
Yeah.
And they're just like, no, I forgot. They live in that house. And you're like, okay. And you would do that through an interpreter. But it was like,
yeah.
I mean, they were twirling their mustaches. They were bad. And like every time like you'd go roll up on a town, you're like, hey, we've been attacked from here. And like, that's how you'd find people. And so like the Afghani local police, the Afghani National Army who would do it, you know, they would take care of business. And then like when you're in gunfights, like you go all out.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, we'd be driving in these, you know, little ATVs, you know, where you have no protection from anything, and you know, you're driving around hills, and all of a sudden you get opened up on, you know, driving to and from places. And instead of, you know, just patrol the contact or something like that, you do it a little bit more diabolical. You set up people in, you know, the hills, you try to bait them into stuff, and then you try to do something when you bait them so that they stop attacking you.
Was that a tactic that was effective?
Yes.
Is there a particular instance that it was masterfully effective that you could share?
I don't know that like a particular instance that was masterful, but like I think just, you know, you get onesies, twosies here and there, and like you're just aggressive with it, and they're just like, they don't know what's coming. And the beauty is you can hear them on the radios.
Yeah.
And they talk to each other, and all of that is like out in the open, and you listen to like the ICOM radios and you hear what they're saying, and you're just like, oh, they have no idea where we are, and we know where they are, and they're kind of revealing their position. And we went from the most attacked base in Afghanistan to never being attacked again.
Really?
Yeah.
Were there tangible missions that you guys went on during that deployment, or were they all kind of, you know, recon by fire, you know, patrol based? I
mean, I don't know. I think a lot of it was like the presence, and just to know that like we would go to the villages that were bad, particularly on this one, where we knew that they were attacking us from, and we would give them retribution. You know, we would go, you know, when we found bad guys or something like that, you find a cache, you go burn down the whole thing that's with it, and you blow it up, and you know, you know, try to make the example that you can so you don't get attacked anymore.
Yeah. Were you a sniper at that point?
Yes. So I went to sniper, breacher, and JTAC between.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
So you got all the
even after getting in trouble, they let me go to all the schools.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Did you use any sniper tactics?
Oh, absolutely. So that you would set up with like a sniper, you'd do like sniper hides to like bait, and so that you'd end up having like a patrol of those LTVs drive out somewhere, and you'd figure out, and like you'd have like, you know, small man elements, and like you'd go dig in the hills and see if you could go shoot at stuff.
What gun were you using?
300 wood mag was my favorite. So we had like these targets that were set up. So where our little base was, they had like old Russian tanks that were like burned out there. And so we would like call CAS in on them all the time. So you get like A-10s, you shoot at them. You're like, it's okay for you to shoot at them.
Yeah.
And then we had all these steel targets. So like, at like
cool.
super far distances. So we get to shoot like super far distances every day.
Yeah.
It's good.
Any real world sniper shots?
Yes.
Can you share? Looking to the couch for approval.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't probably talk about that. I probably won't have my wife listen. She probably won't anyway. So
she's supportive that way.
Right. So there was one where they were reporting we're in a town that was like one of these bad towns. And so I had my 300 Win Mag, and every day I'd been shooting at 1,700 yards because that was where our furthest target was. It was like I was dialed all the way out on the scope. It was as far as the scope could go, and I had to do a hold on top of being dialed all the way out. And so I shot it every single day. And we had a bunch of dudes who were waiting on us on a hill, and I was a sniper element outside of the town, and they were kind of rampaging the town. We're like, a lot was going on. You were in the town.
Yeah, it was a shit show.
So he says a shit show, and there was a lot of noise going on, and there's a lot of dudes, and they're like, we're going to attack, and we got this huge, a huge group, we're going to attack these Americans, right? And we just kept hearing it, and we saw a bunch of dudes reporting on us. And we ended up shooting a javelin out at a group of guys, and we got them with a javelin. And I was with that element, and we're just like, okay, cool. And then guys started coming up after the javelin was gone. And when I lased it, it was 1,705 yards.
Oh, shit.
And you're like, and it was early in the morning, you're like, no wind, center mass. And so I saw a dude who came up, and he's reporting on it. And like, it was right after we got those dudes. And, reporting on our location and like amassing more dudes. And he was at 1,705, pulled the trigger, and I saw it hit the dust in front of him. I'm like, I missed. And on ICOM, I got him.
No
so
shit.
Like I missed, but it tumbled into him.
Wow.
So at 1,705.
Dude, that's incredible, man.
We heard him. I tried to like go out to the element to get him, and we ended up getting called back, but like we had this pretty kinetic day, and then we got attacked by probably like 20 dudes on the way home. And so they were on like a hill. They knew where our base was. They knew where we were going. And so this was early on, like when we were trying to establish like what we're doing. So we probably had on those side-by-sides on the drive home that day, I was the last vehicle because I was like a sniper element. So, you do like basically like a point man in the front and the back. I was with another dude and in a side-by-side on an area from a hilltop. And I think that I probably got shot for a full mile at it by belt-fed machine guns by about 20 guys. They were far. So it was like close to where like it stopped cracking. So like it was close to maximum effective range, but we're like driving left, right. And like, it's like, like the bullets are just like, there's dust, powder, just in front of you. You're like, what is that? Oh my God. And like, and you're just saying, fuck. And like, you're going 40 miles an hour in a side-by-side, which is, a golf cart basically just getting shot at. And you're just like, I have no armor. I feel as naked as you possibly could feel. And we drove all the way to this one building that was like the only building in the area. And, we amassed everybody else. And so we're like, trying to return fire and getting air over like this ridge line. And you see all these dudes and, black things with like PKMs that have been shooting at you. And, the day ended, and we ended up living in that house. That was their next thing. That's where we did our VSO site. We lived in this thing that we had attacked that was
really?
like, well, we're like, it's pretty far away from like a belt-fed machine gun. That's about the maximum effective range. Yeah, let's live there.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So that whole ride home, did you guys respond, or were you just bagging ass?
I mean, it was a combination of both. Yeah. Like we couldn't drive up into the hills and do that. And by the time that we ended up getting air support, I think a lot of those guys were gone. But like that was a pretty kinetic day.
Yeah. Dude, 1705. That's wild.
I mean, I missed, but
Well, not really. I mean,
I got him ultimately.
Yeah, ultimately, yeah. That's crazy.
There's a lot of luck that went into that one.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to disagree. I mean, to me that shot, especially with you practicing that specific distance so much, I think that's impressive. That's awesome. So for the rest of that deployment, then it was pretty similar to those types of things where, just kind of walking with a big stick and letting everybody know not to fuck with
Yeah,
you
I
guys.
mean, for the most part. And then, the winter came and then you can't go anywhere. And it was some of the most miserable time we were living in. We had an area where the CBs had built and gave us hot water, good food. They brought in like a cook. They did all these, the cook didn't last very long.
What happened with that?
They brought like an actual like CS, like a culinary specialist in the Navy. And they were like, I'm going to cook you eggs every morning. It's going to be great. And then like a month in, he's just like,
Fuck this.
I cannot get shot at anymore. Like this ain't happening. So
Remember when he came off the plane?
oh yeah, so like he came off like the helicopter, and we had little bunkers where you're supposed to run, if something happened, and we had a couple of guys get hurt during some of these attacks, like guys they got fragged by some of these things. We're getting closer every day. But for the most part, like nobody ran to the shelters. You ran to the towers to go shoot back. Like nobody was like in our bunkers, but we had bunkers. And so the cook was he had just landed with like a helicopter with, we're getting mail or something with that. And everybody's really excited. And maybe we got attacked and maybe we didn't. Like at this point, like we did. We're getting attacked.
When the Helo was taken off, they started throwing mortars in.
Oh, so after the Helo took off, they started mortaring us. So like no one really knew that he had showed up. And he had ran into one of the bunkers and he didn't hear an all clear. So he stayed there. And I'm telling you, that guy was in the bunker for 5 hours and like by himself and being like, just like sweating through his clothes. And we're like, yo man, can I get an omelet?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everybody's pretty cavalier at that point. And it's just like,
That's fucking
yeah,
weird. Man, that's wild. Yeah.
cookie.
What for the rest of that deployment, does anything stand out as being worth mentioning? Any other operations that went a certain way?
No, I mean, I would just say that like we had leadership changes in it because, we didn't really feel like we got supported with like the air support and stuff with the level of attack and whatever it was. And like there was, I don't want to get into the weeds of that, but there's like pretty much almost every deployment, my bosses got fired.
Yeah.
So my first boss in the first one, Brian Bourgeois, he got basically fired because we had a Christmas party.
Yeah.
And so he ended up becoming the commanding officer of Team 8, but so he got fired. And then my second one, my OIC got fired.
What for?
Maybe how we were doing like con ops for like the aggression or whatever it was. It didn't line up with that. I don't fully know. I was not, I was a one platoon guy trying to get after it. And, I was not going into the bureaucracy of what that was.
Yeah.
And then the last one was different anyway. So that was.
Yeah. So speaking of which, so you come home after the second one, more in terms of necessary decompression on your part? Or
so
was it pretty
that
seamless?
one was different. So like Adam was like one of my best friends that I've ever had in my life. I was very different than him. Our backgrounds are totally different. We were just like, dude, I don't think that we would ever be friends if it weren't for the SEAL teams. Like he grew up like on a shrimp farm in Missouri. And like he was always like the first to fight and whatever. He's just like a selfless, like awesome dude. But he was always trying to throw down. I was a little bit more cerebral and nerdy. I don't know. And like we'd go out and he'd just like always fight and always do this. I'm like, man, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And he's just like, dude, we just don't like see the world in the same way. And it's like, but he was like one of my absolute best friends. And he started Buds before me, but rolled into the class. And then, we were together and he was just.
So he's more of a Gryffindor and you're more of a Ravenclaw.
Right.
You guys into fucking Harry Potter?
I'm straight Slytherin material.
Right.
My daughter's reading all those right
I
now.
love
She's
that
super
shit.
into it. But it was just it was weird, in these stresses in your life, what go on and what it does to you.
Yeah.
And the friends that you make are just, the bonds are so strong. And like that was a hard thing to make. And so I did the only thing that I was that I could do in that situation is I went crazy and just said, I'm only going to be this. And like, it was not good. Yeah. And it was just like more action right now. And I needed time to decompress that, and I didn't have it. And I did another one right after.
Was it a quicker turnaround for the third?
So it wasn't. So like I had a weird thing happen. I went and tried to go to Dam Neck. So I screened in between. And so I didn't make it through the class. And
so you went to Green Team and didn't make it?
I went to Green Team and I didn't make it. And
can you share what
like house runs. Yeah. So I was a sniper that whole deployment, and I came home. I was not really ready to go. And we probably got home in April, and green team started in April. And it was just like, I was like running on treadmills, and it was like, I was not prepared, and I hadn't like cleared a house in, 2 years basically by the time, that I was going. And, I think I figured out what that game was. I rescreened. But they were just like, go to trade at, and I was like, I'm not going to trade at. I have no interest in that. So I went back to Team 4 and it was like, will you take me back? And they said, yeah, let me go deploy again. I am not training. Yeah. Like, I'm going to go deploy. That's the only thing for me.
During that window of time between your second and third deployment, in the kind of decompressing and processing the loss of one of your best friends, were there any kind of dark self-destructive behaviors or habits that you fell into, or did you just deflect into default aggression?
Numbness, just numbness. Like I didn't, I actually, did I get married in between? Like I was engaged. I was with my wife.
That's a pretty
the whole
destructive
time.
behavior. I know your wife's
awesome.
not listening anyway, right?
I can't let her listen to this now. That's for sure. She will definitely, she wouldn't anyway, probably. But the amount of just like keep moving forward, do not stop. I mean, that's the thing. I should have probably gone to trade at. Like I probably should have figured myself out, but I didn't. Yeah. And I didn't like, I'm not like a big drinker or anything like that. Like that, I didn't do that. I just wanted to go do it. I was, one of the, I felt like, failing on a green team was like the biggest failure of my life. And, oh my God, I'm going to perfect this. So like I did house runs like every minute of every day that I could possibly do that for the next like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. Did you rescreen ever?
I did.
Yeah.
And I got picked up to go again, but I'll get into it. But I ended up getting into Wharton at the same time, and I knew that it was time to move on.
Yeah. Fucking Wharton.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely get into that. I get emails from them a lot about leadership programs and MBAs and stuff, which I know who's
emailing you anyway.
All right. So getting into the third deployment, how did that contrast from the second as far as what your objectives were?
So we ended up doing a strike force mission on the third one. So I went back to Afghanistan, back to basically the same region, except I was in charge of like the commandos, the Afghani commandos. And so that's like 1,000 people. So it was, a FID mission, foreign internal defense, like the Green Beret mission. And then we were going to go do strike force missions with them. So I was like a team lead at this point. So I'd have like 100 commandos under me, and my buddy would have 100 commandos under him. And then like our OIC in chief would be in like a C2 element. And they're like, go clear the villages. And so I would do that. So I was basically, running a big team at that point. And, we'd go in the areas that were bad. And so that was a lot more kinetic than my first, but probably not as much as, I don't know, it was a mix. Yeah. We definitely got into more what I thought of like strategic gunfights and those kind of things more often during those missions.
Gentlemen and ladies, are you tired of having buckwheat in a leg lock as far as your downstairs is concerned? I know I was, and so I turned to Manscaped. And this one, which reeks of excellence, is the actual one that I shorn my sack with. This is the regular Manscaped model. It's got, if you're a really hairy bastard like I am, it's got 2 different guards for different lengths. They do have an ear and nose hair trimmer, which you get to be my age, and that shit starts to grow. This works exceptionally well and is very gentle as also. They have the Crop Reviver. This is also known as a ball toner, which, if you're getting ready to do the damn thing and you want to not offend anybody, then the ball toner works great. And this is the Crop Preserver, which is ball deodorant. Both of them are fantastic products. Manscaped is a hell of a brand. They're extremely supportive of veteran companies such as this one and the Mic Drop podcast. I do use the shit out of this product. It's even got this little light on it. You can hear that, ladies. I know you know what that sounds like. So I use their products. I love their products. I have for a number of years now. And now that they're working with us, if you go to manscaped.com, the code is MicDrop, all one word, capital letters, and that's for 20% off all of the ball manscaping products that you could possibly want. And again, ladies, you can use these too, because God knows we all need a little bit of help down there. How difficult was interacting with, training, directing, and managing the Afghan commandos? I mean, you see and hear quite a few horror stories about what a goat rope that is. What was your experience with that?
So, I mean, I have no training other people, right? Like the SEAL teams are amazing people, and I almost think, you know, I don't want to take the wind out of anybody's sails, but if you're a leader of SEALs, that's not that hard of a job.
Yeah.
Like people will be like, I will cut my heart out just to be 1% better. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that hard. Like
Yeah.
I worked at Amazon. I had people who were making, you know, $17 an hour.
Yeah.
And
With not quite the same standard.
they literally quit on you that minute. We're like, dude, I want 15 more minutes for lunch. So I quit. Bye.
Yeah.
And so the experience of like, I didn't know what I was doing. And, you know, you have 1,000 people who it's like babysitting, even though they're commandos. So, you know, they've done it again and again and again. Some are very good. But there was one person to 5 people out of 1,000 that were like actually like a comparable force to us. And if that, and then you'd have, 30 people who were like, okay. And then you had, 970 that were scary.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I could get shot in the back at any given point.
Yeah.
And that actually happened under deployment. We had 2 Green Berets who were under our same thing who got killed.
By the commando.
Right.
Fuck. And I'm assuming that was an intentional thing, right?
Oh yeah. It was, whatever green on green or whatever that called, green on blue or whatever they call that.
Fuck, man. How did you guys deal with that?
It was bad. So it wasn't in our element. It was a different group, but it was under our SOTF. So my boss was Joe Price. And when those Green Beret, like our force was like, when something like that happened, we'd go like clear the whole valley and go do that. So every time something bad happened, like my group was the biggest group. So we go fly in and go do a mission. And, you get into some gunfights, whatever does or doesn't happen. Everybody was like, oh, it's going to be this huge thing. And usually they fizzled out. It wasn't like that bad. But like after Americans get killed, like it's really bad. And then you go look at the dudes face to face, the Green Berets, who's your brothers. And you know that they lost a brother, and you're like, man, I'm sorry. Like, what can we do? Like, I will do anything for you. Like, whatever you want, I'll do. And unfortunately, we had a lot of that deployment.
A lot of green on blue.
So we had 2 of those, and then we had guys get killed. So we had 2 SEALs get killed.
What were the circumstances?
So in a different, they were doing like a VSO kind of mission, and a guy, Matt Cantor, got shot from like really far away, and I think it was just a lucky shot. And, I think he got shot from like 800 yards away or something like that. And then like it went between plates and he got killed. And, I don't even know if it's anybody doing anything wrong. It was just like where they were at the time. And so the same kind of thing, after he died, we're going to have all the commandos from, where you're at, go clear everything out. And you go see your brothers face to face. And you're like, fuck, man, sorry. I will do anything you want. Like we're doing missions like that.
What was the other guy?
So this is like I was directly involved in Kevin Ebbert. So Kevin Ebbert was one of my best friends. And I was literally talking to him when he died. So he was talking to me on the radio. His last words were to me. So we had, and I physically helped carry his body out. That was the most harrowing day of my life. We were in another area. Hey, it's getting attacked all the time. This is a really bad place. And Green Beret were, the owners of the village stability operation, like little thing where they're supposed to live and train with people. And they're like, dude, we get attacked every day. There's this terrible valley. And they're like, we're by these mountains, right? So in the mountains, people are like attacking near them. We don't know where they're coming. And it's all the time. And like, dude, if you go clear this village that's at the bottom of the mountain, there's 2 villages. Like you're going to get in the worst gunfights you've seen in like years and years and years. And like we had heard that story so many times. We're like, okay, cool. So you prep for it. And we're like, you know what? Let's get a little cute. Let's have like a really good plan. So we flew in the mountains, overwatches that were like, dude, no one's going to know that they're there. We're going to fly them in early, and then we'll have the commandos clear. And if somebody like kind of tries to go in the mountains, like it'll be like shooting, fish in a barrel. It'll be like the easiest thing. And it's what a tactical plan. It was really great. And like we came up with that plan. I came up with part of that plan, right? And we we took a while to plan it. It was probably like 10 days where we were just like, okay, we're going to do it. And we went out on like November 24th, 2012. So just about 10 years ago, a little bit more now. And Kevin was like a sniper element and he was in charge of that. And they landed at like 12,000 feet and I was probably at like 6,500 feet or something like that. And they were going to have to like down climb to a position. And so he was supposed to be the overwatch, and he had a couple of Afghanis with him, but he had a couple of new guys. So he was the most senior guy in it. And I had like a group of like 75 commandos and like 4 NSWs, so like maybe 3 SEALs and EOD guy. And then I had a couple Green Beret with me. And because it was like their home, and they're like, well, we'll just kind of overwatch it. I was like, the commandos to do all the clearing, you know, we'll kind of go do our thing. And, you know, we'll just hang out together. And if something happens, we'll address it together with like basically the SEALs and the Green Beret if the commandos can't get it in the village. But the commandos were clearing the village, and it was massive. And my buddy was like really far away, like 2 miles away or something, clearing another village that they were also doing overwatch. So he had 100. So I had 75, he had 100. And so we're going to do that. We're going to meet in the middle, right? And that was the plan. And it was going to, you know, and we were going to play whack-a-mole when we push everybody out towards the mountains. And they're like, oh, guess what? We were hiding the whole time. So I was talking to Kevin. So they landed like hours before us. I landed, you know, 2 hours before dawn or something like that. They went in at like midnight. And somewhere they realized that to down climb was too dangerous. And like you know, I pride myself on being a sniper and a point man. And it was like, I still am upset that I didn't do it with him and sit down as like, this is how I would do it. And I did, but he was competent. So it's like one of those things. This is our plan. We thought that this was a good spot, and it was more treacherous than he thought, particularly at night on nods down climbing. Like he was going to lose like 3,000 to 4,000 feet of elevation.
Wow.
And they ended up coming to a sheer cliff, and they're just like, all right, we're going to stop right here. We're going to wait till first light to down climb. This is too dangerous. Like, I know that there's other ways. I'm like, oh God, he should, like, I'm thinking in my mind where he was and what was going on. And I was like, okay, cool. And at some given point, we're like, all right, there's enough light. Let's have the commandos start clearing. And just, you know, they're banging indoors and they're doing stuff like that. I hear bolt action rifles in the mountains. And I'm just like, okay, our guys are taking shots. Those are bolt action rifles. And then, you know, saying, you know, we're taking enemy fire. And you're like, okay. And so I'm talking to Kevin. So he's on the radio saying that I'm the closest element to him, and I'm the team lead of the element. I'm the team. So I'm talking to me. And like our C2 element, he's too far away for them to even hear. And they were between terrain. So I'm like relaying anyway to our C2 element. And so I'm talking to him. I have like a map out. I'm like, okay, where are you? I'm like, I'm at, you know, this location. And I couldn't hear it. And he's like, I'm taking effective fire. And you're like, all right, dude, I'm going to come up. I'm going to come to you. I'm going to take an element. I'm coming up. What's your location? And so he starts reading out the 10-digit grid. And so he got through the first 5, and then he got the 6th digit. And then I heard a shot, and he stopped talking. And so, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, what's your position? I'm coming to you. What's your position? I'm coming to you. And he didn't hear anything, didn't hear anybody respond. And ultimately, bad things are going through my head. I'm like, he got shot. Like, that's what happened. And then someone called out bonehead. And so bonehead is not what you're supposed to say. Bonehead is a training thing for man down. So I knew what it meant. In my heart, I knew what it meant. And I was like, you're confused because you said the wrong words. You're supposed to say man down if it's us, so it couldn't be that. But like, I knew in my heart what it was. And then he's like, you know, man down. And he was whispering. And he was just like, tell me where it is. Give me the grids. Wouldn't give me the grids.
So who was on the radio?
It was the EOD guy. Okay. So none of the other SEALs, nobody else was talking on the radio, and they were whispering. And, you know, they were probably like 5,000 feet above my head, and they were probably, I didn't know where. Eventually, I get a grid from the EOU guy through whispers, and he's like, you know, I'm like 5-3, you know, whatever it was, and I got it, and you're like, oh, they're fucked. And I turned to the Green Berets, and they had done the FID mission, and I'm like, look, dude, I'm not dealing with the commandos anymore. Like, you got them. That's my brother. I'm going. And so I was like, we don't really have, like, I'm not the comms, the Green Beret guys. So I was like, you guys have this mission, right? Like, you've done this before. I talked to them. They're like, we got it, dude. So I went with 3 other guys. I had an EOD guy, and we're like, we're going to go to this. So full speed sprint on like a goat trail that was supposed to be IED'd. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to go over the rough terrain. I'm going to do this the fastest way possible. I'm running on this trail. I don't think I'm going to light anything off. I'm going to lead it. So I was a JTAC. I took control of air as I'm like dead sprinting. I have like a new guy with like the AW gun, and I have my puff jacket under it was cold. So I have my puff jacket under my body armor at that point, and I'm dead sprinting in it, and I'm probably going a mile maybe, and I'm gaining 4,000 to 5,000 feet elevation. I don't know.
What elevation were you at the time about?
Maybe like 6,500, and they were at like 10. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it was, but like, you know, we're at high desert kind of thing. And I didn't know exactly where they were, what elevation were they, because they started at like 12. And so I'm telling you, it was a full sprint, and I came to a sheer cliff that was 100 feet tall. And like that, I was like, I'm 50 yards from where they're supposed to be. So I was like, they're on top of this. So I slung my gun and I started climbing. And like the guys I was with, like, they're like, I'm a rock climber. I was into it. Like, I climbed with Kevin all the time. Like, every trip we went on, everywhere we went, I'm like, I'm fucking going. And I realized like I can't get up that way. I was like, okay, I'm going to go around. So I down climb, go up like around the hill of like where I think I can get over them. And they're still whispering. Like, they're not moving. Nobody's talking to me on the radio. And I know that it's bolt action. I know that like other people are alive. There's no way that like everybody's dead or anything like that. Like, and I kept talking to the guy, and I was like, hey, Lima 1, that was his call sign. Lima 1, are you there? He's like, he's down. And you're like, oh, he's dead. Like, I can't get to him in like that hour. There's no way. And so I don't know how long it actually took us to get there, but maybe it was like 45 minutes or something of like the worst fucking thing in your entire life. I did another up climb, and I was arrogant enough with my gun that be like, dude, with my M4, I got this guy fucking dead to rights. Like, whoever's there, like, I'm going to get them before they get me, because there's no way. And at that given point, having like a lot of the bad things that had happened, and I think extortion happened in between, and like one of my mentors was in that, and like, so I was friends with all those guys. Like, I was like, I'm coming home. I'm not going to waste my life on something that's unimportant. And that day I was like, I'm fucking done. I don't care what happens to me. And so I'm talking to the helos that were overhead. They can't see anything. Nobody's responding to it. And I'm like sheer climbing a thing that nobody can follow me and nobody can support. And I'm like, I'm going to fucking use my M4, and like, I don't care. Like, it's going to happen. Eventually I down climbed. My buddy had reached me at that point in the other element. And then we went around, and like I crested, and then I realized I was Overwatch for those guys. And as soon as like I was Overwatch to them, I was like, dude, I got you. Ain't nobody going to be able to shoot you. And I was over them. So they were on like maybe a 10 to 20 foot cliff. He got shot probably like 50 yards away with a bolt action gun of somebody who was sleeping in a cave. And you're like at 12,000 feet. Like, it didn't make any sense. And he got shot in the head. And at the end of it, like, we had, you know, the helicopter had like PJs and stuff, and they're just like, hey, we can crane them out, we can hoist them. And you're like, if somebody's in the hills and we don't know it, like, no, we're not doing that. So we physically had to carry him and down carry him for like, I don't know, 3 hours. So covered in his blood. Like, I remember what he smelled like. I remember seeing like his wedding ring on it. And like, I knew his wife. Yeah. We were friends. Like, and knowing what that meant.
Yeah.
And I would say, so we carried him out, and we finally get back to like the base where everybody had like consolidated. And that's where we're like broke down. Like, there was no, like, we were fucking going. And then like everybody sees you, everybody's in tears, and you're like, and then it hit you, and you're like,
Yeah.
fuck.
From the time that you realized what had happened talking to him on the radio until you got back, what was the ballpark time frame that took place? Was it 5 hours?
Yeah, probably by lunchtime we were back, something like that. And I literally sweat through like a puff jacket.
Yeah. Did the whoever was sleeping in the cave, did you guys ever see?
So our interpreter, who I think is an Uber driver in Chicago, I think he got him.
Really?
So, yeah.
Do you know any of the details on that?
So he squirted in a different direction that wasn't that, and they got him. I mean, like, our interpreter got him. Tazagul.
That's fucking wild. He's a Uber driver in Chicago?
Yeah.
Do you keep in touch with him at all?
A little bit. I have his number. I probably should be better about it, but a lot of those interpreters that we kind of didn't do so well by,
Yeah.
they matter.
Oh, I know it. I just had this guy Aziz on with Chad Robichaux that was a Force Recon guy that for like 12 years was his main, not just interpreter, but like fixer. You know, it was like, oh, you're going to this region. I need to hook you up with this guy so that you don't, step on your dick and cause problems or whatever. And he's living with him now, and it was kind of that like last ditch effort of like the last. He was on one of the last flights out, and I mean it's a fucking crazy story. But
we have in our company we've got a guy who was one of the last people out on the last flights, and we're trying to right a wrong.
Yeah.
And I can't say his name or anything like that, but we're because his family's still in danger. But some mutual friends connected us, and we have somebody working on our company who is over there.
So speaking of morning routine and really throughout the day, health and fitness and overall well-being is something that I focus on as I get older. I get more and more kind of in tune with what works and what doesn't. And I recently started working with Ketone IQ, which is hvmn.com. This product is a really, really good way to start the day, as well as basically just anytime you need a boost from an energy standpoint. You're getting ready to do something physically demanding, mentally demanding. Before I record, I take a shot. First thing in the morning I do before workouts to recover after workouts. I take it multiple times a day. And there's no sugar, it's vegan, there's no caffeine, there's no salt, gluten, no artificial flavors or sweeteners. And it works from a ketogenic standpoint, giving your brain and body the fuel that it needs to do tasking tasks. So, it's a phenomenal product, an amazing company. That's hvmn.com. And the code is MicDrop, all one word, all caps, for 20% off. I can't recommend this product enough for, again, getting going in the morning, pre-workout, post-workout. You're tired in the afternoon. It's a super healthy way to feed your brain and your body from that kind of glycogen replenishment standpoint that tends to crash a lot of people when they're using caffeine products or carb products, et cetera. So I love this stuff. I use it several times throughout the day, and I encourage you guys to check it out as well. It's hvmn.com, and that code is MicDrop for 20% off, all caps, all one word.
I also, on my first deployment, I worked with Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker was our interpreter our first deployment, so everybody knows him.
Oh yeah, I had him on a couple of years ago. It was right when his book came out. And, he was absolutely fucking bombed drunk during the entire interview.
He was bomb drunk. He was bomb drunk during my whole deployment, but he was still awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
Agreed. It was. It's worth watching. I think for that. Like, he showed up still drunk from the night before, and was like, "Do you have anything to drink?" And I gave him a bottle of, like, I don't remember. It was bourbon, Blanton's maybe. I don't know. He drank the whole fucking bottle during the interview and got just fucking plowed, like even further plowed. I was like, dude, I don't know how are you doing what you're doing right now? And it was crazy. Like he kissed me, and I tried to give him a book that he talked about in his book that meant something to him, and he wouldn't take it. It's a fucking total circus, but.
That describes the deployment that I had, which was very towards the end of his career. So he was pretty cavalier.
Yeah, an amazing guy, no doubt about it. Yeah. Going back to that particular operation, was there? I know you said that that you guys think that your interpreter got him. But was there any, from an after-action hot wash standpoint, any details of the resistance and kind of how it went wrong that you guys were privy to, or was it just kind of a fucking freak thing, or what?
I think a lot of it is a freak thing, and this is something we have to live with. This is like our plan, right? And like I was absolutely do that. So like, I mean, there's stuff that still bothers me about that, no doubt. Like, would I have done something differently? Of course I would have. But like, was that knowable? Not based on the intelligence that we had, and that was such like a far out thing that, it's one of those things that kind of lives with us. And, it was basically, we had right before the mission, it was basically Thanksgiving, right? I don't think that day was, but it ends up being on Thanksgiving a lot, the 24th. And we all put a hand and drew a turkey, a dumb, stupid thing. All of us did it. And like we do it, like people, do dicks on it and whatever it is, as you would. And Kevin was a classical guitarist major, like a classical music major. Yeah. He was going to go be a doctor. Wow. So it was like literally like one of his last missions, if not his last mission. They were going to send him home early. He got accepted into a medical school. Fucking unbelievable dude. Yeah. And he never got to do that. And he went and drew his turkey hand, and it was beautiful. It was perfect. Yeah. And it was like an artist drew it. And we had all of these like amateur, whatever, it was a joke. Yeah. Everybody draw a turkey hand. And like no Thanksgiving can possibly go by. And like, I think that we made a joke even before, like we went into like our operations center, like which one did Kevin draw? Don't look at names, just which one. Like, oh, obviously that one, it's amazing. Yeah. Cause that's Kevin. Yeah. And he was an amazing dude.
Yeah. Did you find out who the opposing forces were? Like specifically the guy that made the shot? I mean, was he just a fucking hired gun that was in the area that just like some random
Taliban, nothing that compelling. It was like a guy and a son in a cave.
Wow.
With a bolt action rifle.
Man. Well, I'm really sorry to hear that. I appreciate you sharing the story. I know that is not easy. And
I mean, that's still not the end though. So our commanding officer was Joe Price, and committed suicide. So that was November. That was November 24th. And then a month later, so I would go into the operations center because we were like the commandos. So I was like one person who saw it, and he ended up committing suicide on Christmas Eve. And it was from those lessons of like, it's hard to, when you own that on your shoulders and like what it is and what that means and the responsibility that you own. Like nobody owns that responsibility. Like it's something that like I'm coming to terms, like, was that my fault? Like I didn't do that. I own some of that. And like, that's something I'll never not live with, but I have to lead my life. I have to go do good. And like, I want to do good for Kevin. Yeah. And I want to be a change for good the way that I thought he would be. And you saw somebody fall apart in front of you. And our commanding officer was a tyrant, but he wasn't a bad person. I think in hindsight, like I hated him the day, like I was a new guy at Team 4 and he was the executive officer, and he'd make me come over like the one I'm seeing, like call me up and be like, no, please report to the quarterdeck. He's like, the XO doesn't say please, the XO commands. And you're like, oh. And he'd like, how I said it, something over the intercom, he'd like correct me again and again and again. And he was just a dick, as big of a dick as anybody I've ever met in my entire life. But it's because he wanted us to be perfect. And I understand that after the fact. I didn't get that in the moment. But I saw him deteriorate in front of me, and I was like a more junior guy. Like I was an E6 in the room. And like I got to be in the room every time I saw the guy deteriorate, and like we need to do something to help this guy. Like he is not okay. And he ended up killing himself on Christmas Eve. And like, that was a fucking shitty deployment. Holy cow. And, with such good people too, and where it went, and like that leads on. And, that was one of the last, super kinetic, more kinetic, we'll say it. It ended up getting like less and less and less. And it was even kinetic comparative to what? Like, I don't know. But like, I was, I had the option before me to kind of get out. And like I got into Wharton, I was going to go to Green Team right after that. And I decided, you know what, it's time to have a family. My wife was pregnant. And then I was just like, you know what, it's time to do something else.
Yeah. I'm curious. I remember hearing about him committing suicide, and I know there was, at least like rumor mill wise, or there were some grumblings about whether or not it was like nefarious. Was there any of that with you guys, or was it like, no, it was pretty clear cut?
I think that he was just so hated that like people were like, well, I bet, but he deteriorated. So like he wouldn't make like he would run the meetings and sit at the head of the table and be like, you are going to do this, you are going to do this, you're going to do this, report to me. He's like, that's not good enough, you're fired, redo it. Like, I mean, that's how he behaved.
Yeah.
He would interrupt you, he was rude, he'd have a dip, he was like, oh, you're going to do this? Oh, and he was doing it because that's how he saw authority and commanding leadership and whatever it was. That's unfortunately how he learned it, so he did the same thing.
Yeah.
And that after Kevin got killed, I mean, we had 2 Green Beret, we had a SEAL, and then Kevin, and he knew Kevin. He didn't really know those other people, but he knew Kevin because Kevin, like, everybody loved him. Like, he's just awesome dude. And you saw it deteriorate, and you're like, you would see him not eat, not sleep, and you're like, that guy's needs to go home.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe people told him, they said they told him, but I don't know. I wish I would have like gotten into his face, but it was like, you know, he's like, are you going to go, hey, Darth Vader, could you be nicer? And like, that's how I felt it was. And in hindsight, I would go up to Darth Vader now and be like, cut this shit out.
Yeah. Do you think he would have listened?
I mean, I think that people probably tried,
Yeah.
so probably not, but I don't think that anything nefarious was. I know, you know, I know the guy went and found him. You know, everybody knew he was dead. Like when he didn't show up to work one morning, they're like, it's it, he's gone.
Really?
Yeah. And we literally had a meeting in the room next to it. So it's like the door next to it. You're sitting at a table and you're like, there's a dead body in the next room from suicide. And we've lost all these other dudes. And by the way, it's Christmas fucking day. And our XO's like, Charlie might continue mission. And you're like, you're fucking bananas. Like, what's wrong with you? And he'd want it that way. It was like, he would want himself to be dead too. And like, we shouldn't do that. Like, and then we ended up taking a break and whatever. But like the madness of what leadership can be in those positions. Like I unfortunately, I've always learned from like bad experiences.
Yeah.
Don't repeat them.
Yeah. Man, that's a fucking harrowing and tumultuous 8 months.
There was a lot going on. Yeah.
Man, is there a thing that you can pick silver lining wise from that deployment?
I mean, I have appreciation for the life that I have and the experience that I have and the teammates that I have and the bitterness that I've had towards like things that were bad in my life. I think that I've let a lot of that go away, but only kind of like by accepting my own flaws and doing it and having to go to a dark place afterwards, because going 1,000,000 miles an hour and having all these bad things, because I want to say that I was probably friends with about 30 people that we lost during that. Like people I knew or had interactions with. Like I probably knew 30, and then I was really close with probably like 10 or 12.
Yeah.
And like that stuff, when it gets silent and quiet, that's when like your demons come.
Yeah.
And so I think that I'm on the other side of that now through like a lot of people helping and a lot of different things that we've done. But it, you know, going into business, I went to Wharton, then I worked at Amazon afterwards. And it was just like a dark place for me. Like I wasn't happy doing whatever it was that I needed to do. So that it was time for another mission and time for doing something that really matters to us. And that's like where the ZeroEyes came from.
Yeah. From hearing him kind of chronologically outline a number of years that you spent working with him, does there anything stand out that, that's worth mentioning that he didn't cover, or something that really resonates with you about your time with him?
You know, there's just so much to cover because we spent so much time together. And that was a rough couple of years, I think, for Team 4. It was... took a decent amount of casualties, but that's what we all signed up for. So there was a lot of peaks and valleys for us. But you sign up for the SEAL teams because you want to go to fucking war. You want to shoot people in the face. You want to defend your country.
Revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I think Rob covered the big high points. I think if we dove into the details anymore on those things, we might be putting ourselves in a bad spot.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I appreciate the perspective. I guess since you're both sitting here, we'll quickly ask, or I'd like to quickly ask about the withdrawal, having spent a fair bit of time and lost a lot of brothers' blood there, and the sacrifices that you guys went through there. How has that affected and impacted your guys' lives, mental health, et cetera, seeing the last, year and change of what's gone on there? And how do you deal with it, you guys personally?
Go ahead, Rob.
Let's fucking do this.
Go ahead.
So,
and if Sam, if you want to jump in too, you're welcome.
Yeah, you should.
I'll go take a shit. You sit here.
I don't think I don't think I can be president after this.
It's
so
we're fucked in the head.
One of the things that you did. So I think that I was pretty. I went into the teams I went to a prep school in Connecticut.
Yeah.
I had my college degree before I enlisted. I was pretty well emotionally in the right place. I'm not a big drinker. I don't take drugs. I don't do any of that stuff. I wanted to be the guy who wore the white hat. That's the cowboy with the white hat. That's who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I'm fine. And I wasn't. And we went to business school. So he was a year ahead of me at Wharton. And, we had known each other the whole time in the teams. And
so you went to Wharton also?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
And if we could tell funny Mike Lahiff stories of how unlikely that is, but
yeah, I will say the kind of textbook consummate image you have in your head of Wharton business guys are not the two of you, no offense.
Knuckleheads, the dumbest, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I was special needs.
We came off the deployment where Kevin was killed. I got off the plane. I got accepted to Wharton during that deployment. I found out while I was in Afghanistan. I did 10 years in the Navy. It was time for me to do something else. I have 4 kids at home. I want to spend more time with them. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grow up. I was doing the job I wanted to do, and I was like, well, fuck, I guess I'll apply to this business school thing and figure it out. And I was like, if I'm going to apply to business school, I'm going to apply to the best damn schools that I can. And I grew up in Philly, so I was like, I'll apply to Wharton. I didn't even know what Wharton was when I first went into the Navy, by the way. But anyway, so I applied, I got in, and so I stepped off the plane from that deployment, and no shit, within 4 weeks, I was in a classroom with a bunch of students. I was not in the right spot for that. I should have waited a year or so.
I waited a year and it wasn't better.
Yeah.
Any significant altercations or big things happen when going from such a dynamic environment to that? I mean, that's about as big a contrast shift as exists.
Yeah, I'm trying. I was kind of a hot mess.
Yeah.
But I was holding it together. I had to because I had a family. No, nothing really sticks out of one specific thing, but
just tough.
Yeah, it was just tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the good thing was Wharton has an awesome veterans club. There was a couple other SEALs at the school, a couple Green Berets, and so we would all get together for beers once a week on campus and commiserate over beers and wings, and that really helped.
Yeah.
And then Rob was there the next year. Sam left the SEAL Team 4 at the same time as me. We left at the same time. He went to business school at New York City, Columbia, and Sam grew up in a coal mining town in Pennsylvania. We're all E-dogs here.
Yeah.
It was amazing we got accepted to these schools, and so Sam and I would call each other all the time and commiserate, and whatever, we're still here, putting one foot in front of the other.
That's really cool. So before we get into how the three of you kind of connected that way, just real quick, you spent time at Amazon for a short period. What was that?
For about 2 years. So it was probably being the big Navy, I would imagine, is. So I had, putting stuff in boxes and shipping it. So, the biggest shift I ever ran was 1,200 people. Somewhere. I mean, during Christmas, it's
So you're managing fulfillment operations.
Right, that's it. Yeah. You're in charge of a warehouse. You don't see the daylight a whole lot. And it's a good job. It's, you went to business school, you get a job that you're in charge of a lot of stuff. And it's this really big, cool company. And it didn't scratch any itch that I had. And it was just the demons and the poor leadership stuff you would see. And it's, the corporate America where it's is it a good job? Yeah, for many it is, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I would say that every day went on. I didn't want to get out of bed. And I don't think it's anything, I wouldn't put the words any more than that, but I didn't want to get out of bed anymore.
Yeah. So at that point, I mean, in thinking of, you've got Columbia and 2 Wharton business guys that all served as enlisted guys at Team 4 in the same task element, right, basically, or thereabout?
Yeah.
Were there any other guys from your guys' kind of intimate crew that way that went the way of elite business school, or are you guys the 3 musketeers of that shit?
A lot more.
Really?
Yeah. So it was, there was 2 SEALs ahead of me at Wharton. And so when I decided to apply there, I reached out to them, and they came from, one of them, Chad, was Team 4.
He was my first platoon. There were probably like 9 guys who went to some outrageous school, like Oxford, Harvard, Wharton, Columbia, Duke,
Tuck, Dartmouth, whatever.
I don't know who went there. No, I'm literally in that one platoon.
Oh, you're one platoon.
I'm telling one
I
platoon. A guy went to Oxford, a guy went to Harvard, a guy went to Columbia, a guy went to Wharton. Like, it was outrageous.
And it's all MBA
enlisted,
programs?
all enlisted. Yeah.
Wow,
the MBA
wild.
programs.
That's amazing.
Incredible talent.
That's amazing.
Yep.
So Wharton now, at least within the SEAL community, like when we're there, we're like, guys need this. Like they need something. There was no transition programs at the time. It's a lot different now. Yeah. This is going back 2012, 2013. And it was like, shake your hand, show you the door. Thanks for playing. Good luck.
Yeah.
So when we were at Wharton, we started basically trying to formalize a pipeline to get good team guys to come through Wharton and get a good education so they could figure out the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of them coming through now.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. So how, if we can bring Sam in, as you guys know, health and fitness is a big part of my daily routine and my lifestyle. I have a number of guests that come on that, that we talk about all sorts of things, health and fitness related, diet, nutrition, et cetera. I started taking Athletic Greens a few months ago here for that reason, is that it's a all-encompassing vitamin and mineral supplement, 75 vitamins and minerals. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you do keto, paleo, vegan. It's dairy-free, gluten-free, less than 1 gram of sugar. There's no GMOs or nasty chemicals. There's no artificial anything in it. And it's just very nutrient dense and gives you that supplementation that you need to combat cold and flu season coming up, to bolster your immune system and just help with a healthy lifestyle. Right now, the subscription, if you sign up for it, comes with a year's supply of vitamin D, which again is crucial to immune support, as well as 5 on-the-go packets with that first purchase. Whether you want to invest in your health or just supplement an already existing protocol that you have, Athletic Greens has been a phenomenal staple that I've added into my regimen, and I couldn't be happier to be working with them. If you want in on that deal, go to athleticgreens.com/mic drop. And they do a phenomenal job at all the things that health and fitness wise need to be done on a daily basis. So check them out. Go to athleticgreens.com/mic drop, and they will hook you up with that special deal. All right. So now that the 3 of you are on the casting couch, one thing that we were talking about as we were getting set up to get you 3 on at the same time was in that transition and some of the dark places that you guys found yourselves in, making such a hasty transition from in the thick of it on active duty and combat environments into, elite Ivy League business schools, is difficult for anybody. But with that being such a contrast, you guys all kind of did a similar path in terms of the Ibogaine type of treatment. I would love to get a quick synopsis on what your guys' thoughts were from that.
Yeah, I was one of the first guys, I think, to go through it. I was like I forget how I even came across it.
We watched a podcast of, who was it? Jeff Boss.
That's right, Jeff Boss. And then Jeff, it just led down the road with Jeff Boss and doing the intro. And we all knew we needed help in some form or fashion. And basically doing this, went down to Mexico, spent a couple days down there, and it was just the people that put it together are just amazing. It was an amazing experience, amazing environment.
Is there kind of a highlight that you could pinpoint? I've had a number of guys talk about kind of the big process, but what's kind of the highlight reel that sticks out in your mind from it?
part of it, it was there was a lot. It was a long couple days. You literally felt like you're stuck in this weird void of eternity. Time kind of goes out the window. But there was this one point where I was able to like see my whole life's memories, and it was like a digital filing cabinet, and I could like swipe through it and like pull out memories and be like, oh, this is fucking with me because of whatever X, Y, and Z. Like I was going back to things where like something happened to me on a playground where a kid took my hat and I got in a fight, and it must have been in like second grade. And it was so vivid and clear. I was like, holy shit. And I was like, why am I holding on to this baggage? Like, throw it. It was like, what's it called when you do to your
decluttering?
Computer? Yeah, decluttering.
Defrag your hard drive.
Yeah, defrag your hard drive. Wow. That's exactly what it was. Rob could put this in much better words than I can. He has a thing with words that I won't sound as intelligent speaking about it.
One thing I'm curious, I guess this is for all of you, were there memories from early on in childhood or just at any point in your life that you had completely forgotten?
Yeah, absolutely. It's bizarre. Like you have memories of like when you're an infant,
God,
like in
weird.
senior. Oh, it was so weird. It was, and it's so clear. Yeah. It's like as we're sitting in this room now. For me, at least for me, it was.
Can you recall those memories now that vivid?
A little. It's kind of like waking up from a dream a little bit, but a little bit more clear. It's been years though since, what was that? It was almost 4 years ago I did it. I'd never had to repeat it.
Yeah,
but it was intense.
A highlight from your experience?
So it's tough to say. I think that I know what happens when you die, and I think I know the meaning of life.
Well, let's talk about it.
Right. So, it's provocative, and it's language that doesn't make sense. And when you say it, words don't do it justice. But I truly think that we're all tied together. I think that we have a connection to every human and maybe everything that exists, that when I experienced it, I thought that it was love. And another word for that could have been energy. And another word for that could be God. And I didn't use that word, but like if, I grew up Catholic and they said God is love. What does that actually look like and feel like? And I think I felt it. And I realized that like we are connected and that everybody gets to participate in it. And I think life is unfuck-upable. I think that we are into this together. And
we get a T-shirt with that on it?
Right,
yeah.
Right. I think that you're trying to unfuck America, right?
Yeah.
Unfuck America.
I've been trying.
I know. But I think that this existence is unfuck-upable. I think that we are all here on a journey, and all of our journeys are our own. Yeah. But we are all part of one thing, and maybe that is God, and maybe we are God, and you are God, and I am God, and I don't even know it.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, this harmony, whatever, and why is there war? Why do we do these terrible things? When you get to put that baggage down, and you don't have to be you anymore, and you don't have to, the terrible things that I don't like about myself, that I shout at myself all the time, and I tell, I'm terrible, you should have gone left when you went right. You shouldn't have done that. You were afraid that you were going to die, and you did this thing. You should have been better than that. Like, you can put that down and realize, like, no, I was afraid I was going to die, and that's why I did what I did. And I was so hurt by the loss of my friends that like, that's why I had this kind of hate in my heart. And that's, there was a reason for it. And I was trying to do the best that I could, and you can forgive yourself.
Yeah.
And then you can look, once you forgive yourself, you can look at other people and realize, oh, they're the same as me. Oh, I am them. Oh, like, oh my God, we're all the same.
Yeah.
And maybe this whole thing just happens again and again. And this whole experience is only just to see the joy and the amazement of everything all at once. And I can describe it, but you have to experience it. That path is for yours alone. Like nobody else can go on it. And when you see this harmony in the things that could be, you turn into a different person and happiness. And people who were like, these terrible PTS cases where like, that guy was not functional, and they go do it and they're happy the next, like 20 minutes later, that felt like 10 billion years. It's pretty amazing. And what you realize on my journey, the only thing I'm supposed to do is do my best. So what is the meaning of life? Do your best. And so we're going to start a company and we're going to try to do our best. We're going to attack something that we don't like. and we're going to do it in the way that we want, in a way that we think is right, in a way that we think is just, and all of those things. And we get to do that, and we can mess it up, but like, it's not good for lack of trying. And I think that this experience made me a better father, husband, person, friend, coworker, and I still have all my flaws. Like, they're still there. I have my ego that I want to feed, and I'm like, I'm a Navy SEAL, whatever it is. I'm smart, or whatever. And that still exists, but I can put it down for a minute and try to be a better person and realize we're all connected.
That's fascinating, man. I've heard so many remarkable stories from people that have been through that. Sam, do you want to throw your 2 cents in?
I think what you got from 5-MeO DMT, I got from Ibogaine. And it forced me to feel proud to be human. Like you were literally part of a tribe again, but it was the tribe that's existed for 2 million years and will continue to exist. And that put everything in context. All your fuck-ups, all your concerns, all your worries, all your stresses, all your bullshit is irrelevant because it's part of a long chain of all those fuck-ups. And you fit right in with that tribe. And there were phases of like this masculine energy. I was running with these hunter-gatherers. There was a phase of feminine energy where most of my family's women, so I saw each of them and I just felt like that absolute pure accepting love, and the two met, and it was perfect. It was the perfect experience to kind of come off of what we were coming off of.
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. It's amazing to hear each story, while is unique and individual to each one of you. There's kind of a really amazing similarity in terms of the impact that it had, and kind of big picture wise what you all took away from it, which is pretty amazing. Is there, from your guys' understanding, any movement on having that shit done here in the United States, or is it still pretty much fucking impossible?
I mean, we've all read up on it and whatever. I think, from what I understand, Marcus Capone is
The lead
vets,
on
and that whole thing is an incredible thing. I think it's absolutely critical for happiness and people doing their best. I think it's incredible the work that he's doing. I think that Johns Hopkins is studying it. MAPS is like an organization. They've been running trials for years and years, and unfortunately, there's a lot of negative connotation. I don't think that this is something that you should do for like recreation. This is not. This was like the worst thing I've ever done and the best thing I've ever done. And I don't know that you really could do this at like a teenager or something like that. That'd be crazy. You need to do this with like help and therapy, and then you need to have an interaction. And I think that like vets and Marcus Capone are doing an incredible job. And I think that like there's a bunch of people who really care about this, and they're going to Congress. They're doing all the things that they need to do. It really changes people's life. And I know from, coming from the military, that aspect, but I think just general depression, I think that this is probably good for, I kind of want everybody that I love to do it. And I think after real, I love everybody. Like that's what you're supposed to do. And like we block it with all of the things, all of our flaws, but I think it's incredible. It's powerful. And, a lot of people in the military, I know so many people who have done it, and how life-changing it's been.
Yeah. I've heard that exact same sentiment from everybody that I've talked to that's been through it, life-changing and all the same stuff. So how did the three of you kind of come together? Was it after you went through that experience that you guys decided to start the company, or and tell us about the company and kind of what you guys do?
I'll pick it up here a little bit. You guys hop in where you want to, but at the time, so after business school, Sam and I actually did a business together called a search fund, where we try to go out and buy a company, and we had people back us. And once you buy the company, you go and run the company and hopefully grow it, and then you exit. It didn't work out for us, which is fine. A lot of great lessons learned. We learned a ton. So then I took a job at Comcast in Philadelphia, and I was working there. And I already knew some folks doing facial recognition technology. Our CTO right now, Tim Solzer, also a co-founder, friggin' genius. Me and him would always bounce back and forth on ideas of like, what's next? What can we do? But every time I seemed to turn on the TV or the news, there was another school shooting, another active shooter event. And then it kind of started to hit home. After the Parkland school shooting, the school district that I live in, where my kids go to school, they started doing active shooter lockdown drills. My daughter was pretty upset from it one day. was like, this is nuts. And I was at our school looking around. I was like, man, there's security cameras everywhere. I was like, wait a second. Instead of doing facial recognition technology, why don't we use these cameras and try to detect a gun? If we could detect a gun, then we could send that alert to first responders so now they know what the shooter looks like, where they're located, what type of weapon it is. And so now that you could get people to safety and you could decrease your response time to stop that threat, get first aid in, stop the bleed, et cetera. So I called up Rob, I called up Sam, Dustin, he's another team guy that's on our co-founding team, Tim. I was like, hey, I got this idea. Everyone quit their jobs and moved into my basement a couple weeks later, and we self-funded the business to get it going, like literally maxed out credit cards, liquidated TSP, took another mortgage out on the house, the whole nine. And that was in 2018. So here we are going into our 5th year, and the company's just been, it's moving in the right direction, and we're getting on more cameras and more opportunities to stop one of these events from happening.
Yeah. So it was originally kind of your idea.
Yeah. So there's a long story. There was a ZeroEyes before the ZeroEyes. Another team guy that I know that I went through buds with, he was getting out of the teams, and he met some guy through like a Navy veteran connection. And I lived by me, and he was like, hey, this guy has a company called ZeroEyes, and he's trying to use basically Google glasses to detect everything. So like you'd wear them and it would say, that's a water bottle, that's a helmet, that's a camera, et cetera. Like something like Jason Bourne, and I was like, no, there's nothing, like, I'm not getting involved in this. But then fast forward a couple months, some of the people, like other stuff I was learning about computer vision and artificial intelligence, I was like, wait, let's do a hyper focus on guns. We could do this right. Like this can work. This can happen. This could be a reality. And so we started running with it like that.
So how much of, from a technical expertise as it relates to the cameras and the AI and the algorithms and all that kind of shit, did you guys have to play a role or learn drinking from a fire hose? Like what was the process of actually developing it?
It was drinking from a fire hose for sure. We knew that we needed, in order to create a good computer vision model, artificial intelligence model, you need data, and we needed a lot of data of guns. And at first, we just did like a web scraping tool and pulled images off the internet. And we trained our first model and then hooked it up to a security camera on the back of my house and walked around with guns. And we thought it was going to work awesome, and it worked like hot garbage. We were like, fuck. So then we went back to the drawing board, and we're like, wait, our data sucks. And it's like garbage in, garbage out. Like, you need good data. Well, the one thing that we all have being team guys is a lot of guns. So we just started filming ourselves everywhere with guns. And then we took those videos, broke them down into single pictures, and then started annotating them, like drawing the boxes around the guns to use it to feed into the algorithm to help train the computer vision models. And then we just A/B tested everything. They're like, well, what if we held it this way? What if the camera's this high? What about lighting? And we just kept messing with it. It hasn't stopped. We still do that to this day. It's like we still we have a whole AI lab out in Philly. It's like it's a green screen room. So it looks like something like where you would film a Marvel Avengers movie. There's 100 cameras in there. We film ourselves in there with guns, and we change the backgrounds and change everything up, and it all goes into our data set still.
Man, that's wild. What was, like, I guess the general ballpark time frame from when you guys said, okay, this sucks, we need to reinvent, until you're like, hey, we fucking have something here, and it works? What was that time span like?
I mean, the answer to that is a little bit like, what day is today? But we went to a high school in New Jersey, and we're like, where could we go test this? And we went to a high school in New Jersey every single weekend, every waking moment. Like, do you mind if we carry guns around your school and record on your cameras?
Like, yeah, it'd be
great.
Like,
yeah, let's do this. And I mean, we explained what it was, but like they were
super
receptive to, like, this is the thought, this is the thesis, this is what we're going to do. And we have like kind of a working model. Do you mind if we keep doing this? And then, doing that for like 2 straight years of like every single waking moment. And then like, hey, where else can we record? Like, hey, there's a water park in Delaware that you come during the winter. Let's walk around with guns in a water park and record more data. And then you're just like, it's working here. And then like you do a different cameras. And I would say that high school in New Jersey, Rancocas Valley Regional High School, and like the team that let us in there and let us test and, you know, work with, hey, how does this work? Let's go to the public safety answering point, the 911 call center, and seeing that chain of events. It's probably 2 years in, maybe, that you're like, this is awesome. This is working.
Yeah. And so
It's 2 years.
It's 2 years. And so for kind of getting the product to bear and getting it integrated into systems, can you kind of describe what the soup to nuts 30,000 foot view looks like from somebody says, yeah, I want this. How do you implement it?
Right. So I'm in charge of the team that's doing that. So we can either do it with a computer that's where you're at or a computer that's in the cloud. So it's somebody else's computer is the cloud. So I can either show up with a rack servers and put them in and process the images frame by frame and say, is there a gun in this image? So the turnaround on it is actually relatively quick. It depends on how many cameras you're doing. But let's say you're going to go do 100 cameras. I'm going to put one server in there. I'm going to have a team go install that. I could potentially just do it through the cloud and you don't have to show up on site. We don't use any camera but the ones you already own. So we're not doing anything else. We process the video. That server looks at the camera feeds. It ingests all of them frame by frame. Is there a gun? Is there a gun? Is there a gun? We don't add anything else that doesn't exist. And we have a monitoring center to verify that. So based in Philadelphia, we employ veterans to do it. And then based in Hawaii, we have 2 operations centers that do this. And so that's remote and we don't really need to do anything. So the time to implementation of that, we may have to order the hardware, but a lot of that is already ordered. I mean, it could be a couple of weeks and we need all the video feeds of all of those cameras.
Yeah.
And that's just like a URL address, a real-time streaming protocol feed, RTSP. So you ingest those videos by the actual, if we have all the cameras in Excel file, we can drop it in and do it very quickly.
Yeah.
People don't have that, but to actually watch a video camera's feed, you just need the address of it and the password of it, and that's it.
And so I'm assuming this can be installed into any closed loop camera system.
That's
I mean, obviously
the whole
not just
point.
schools, but anywhere, right? Corporate America, school, I mean, you name it. And so I'm assuming, but I'll ask, with all of the kind of continual foundational build upon that you guys do to just continue to refine and enhance the existing database or algorithm, how does that kind of continue to get uploaded? Like, let's say a school says, hey, we want the full fucking setup. They go do that. Does it get updated the way a Tesla would be? Or like, how does that happen?
I mean, it's still operation.
So, I mean, honestly, at that, we'd have different models that we're working on all the time. So in terms of the AI space, we have an AI team that works on this all the time. We add different guns to it. So we built a green screen lab, like a Hollywood green screen lab where we record data of where we're missing stuff. We go by every kind of gun. If there's some kind of model that we're missing, we add to it. Every single day we record data. Every single day we annotate that data. So it's actually really, really manual and you have to draw boxes around things. So there's a whole team, just AI machine learning team that's doing that every single day.
Yeah.
And then to actually implement that model is actually pretty easy. Remotely, we can talk to all of these things and distribute that very easily. But every single day our model gets better.
So it's
our
like a
false positives
cloud-based.
go down and our good detections go up and the different profiles and the different camera features. But it's always going to be, we are always limited by the cameras and resolutions and locations of a place.
Yeah. So if it's like a 7-Eleven with flip phone camera technology,
Garbage
quality,
in is garbage
yeah.
out.
As far as the, I guess not just the time frame of what it takes to install, but for you guys to go do it, is there a kind of a ballpark of how long it takes, provided you have the stuff? I mean, is it a couple of days to a couple of weeks, or what if somebody says, hey, I want this, how long is it going to take to be up and running? Is there a ballpark?
I mean, if in a perfect world, we have the server already on inventory, or if we're doing a cloud, you could go do a couple hundred cameras in a day or two.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's up and running real quick.
And then in terms of the linkage to first responders, police, how does that shake out? Let's say you install it in a school and it's during normal operating hours. What sets that off once okay, the algorithm identifies there as a fucking active shooter. What happens software wise, network wise? You guys, how does that whole thing work?
So say someone steps in front of a camera view and they have a gun. That alert gets sent to our operations center first. So we literally have a human in a loop that will verify. So that way our clients don't get false alarms. And if it's real, we hit dispatch. That dispatch gets sent back to the client, but simultaneously goes to their local 911 center. And that's through a partnership we have with another company called Rapid SOS. But they receive that alert on the ZeroEyes mobile app and also the desktop, and it will show it on a map. So it will be a keyframe image of the person. The gun's highlighted, so you could clearly see it, and it shows it like on a map, and we put like a cookie crumb trail. So if they were starting to move through the building and go into another location, as long as there's cameras there, we're still showing it.
Yeah. So the Rapid Eyes SOS, is that something that's pretty standard nationwide law enforcement wise, that like, let's say with your guys' technology and algorithm, a big school in Philadelphia versus a little podunk elementary school in Kansas, like does the software have the ability to talk to law enforcement consistently? Like, are they all on the same page that way?
Yeah, and we do that part of the install process with the customer and get the local police roped in. Yeah. Because what we figured out, especially when we're at that high school in New Jersey, is a cop's never going to, when they're responding to something, is not going to like pull out their phone and be sitting there looking at an app. They got their weapon out. They're focused on what they're doing right in front of them. But they do listen to intel coming over, actionable intelligence coming over their cop mic coming from a 911 operator. That's when we realized that we needed to go into the 911 centers, also known as a PSAP. Because that 911 operator, they see the alert. They could be like, hey, it's a 5'10" white male, appears to be an assault rifle, northeast corner of the main building, which is important because without ZeroEyes running right now, there's an active shooter event. It's just like hundreds of frantic 911 calls, bunch of conflicting information. The cops are responding as soon as possible. They have no idea what they're going into. It could be a 100-acre campus, and they're like, where the fuck is this person at? Like, we have no idea.
Yeah.
So we're just really helping provide a clearer picture for that.
Yeah. From somebody that's listening that says, hey, I own this business or have, a principal of the school or what have you. In terms of funding, do you guys work with or get any type of grants or federal funding to help put into public school systems or public buildings, or how is that going?
Sam, you want to hit that?
Yeah. We don't ever want money to be a reason why people can't buy our software. Especially schools. If you have an interest in keeping your kids safe, we will find you money. And we have 2 grant writers on staff to help find that money. Every state has a ton of money left over from COVID. There's ARPA money. There's $1 million grants for security. And we help people find that just to make sure they have the opportunity to buy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there an average cost, or is it just so dependent on size and scope and technology, the equipment they already have? Is there even a range?
There's a couple levers we can pull. So it depends on the camera count. So we charge per camera.
Okay.
So if you're going 100 cameras, it's going to be very different from 2,000 cameras. Yeah. A 1-year contract is going to be different from a 5-year contract, but it's between $20 and $50 per camera, depending on how you break it up.
Is that per year or?
Per year, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that seems pretty reasonably priced. So if anybody that's listening that wants to get this information to either their local school board or whatever entity or industry that they're in, what's the best way to kind of get a hold of you guys and get that process going?
Yeah, check out our website, ZeroEyes.com, ZeroEyes, no eyes.com, and reach out. We'll get back to you soon.
Okay. Is there a time frame process from when somebody says, hey, I want to do this, to when it's up and running? Is there a range timeline? I mean, is that weeks or months, or does it just depend?
A lot of it depends on the client side. How quickly can they move? And we will adapt to that situation. But what are we aiming for right now, Rob, on the operations side?
I mean, my goal is to close stuff in 30 days, but it just depends on this area. If it's a massive thing, it could be different, but
yeah. Is there any clients or customers that you can mention, or is that more of an NDA kind of? They don't want people to know that they're running your technology, which I could certainly understand. Like,
it's a mixed bag. So Sam's our chief revenue officer and deals with the sales and marketing. You know better which clients have said
I actually don't even want to. I don't even want to risk it right now. A lot of commercial clients don't want
I
us
can
to
understand.
publicly state it, but we can put it on the website. So if you go to the website, you'll see a bunch.
How many states are we in?
We're in 30 states. We're in 3 countries right now, but we're still dealing with the best kept secret problem. So we're in 30 states, but there's still people who are like, your technology exists.
Yeah.
But why didn't it exist 20 years ago?
Yeah.
The more people who know about it, the faster we're going to get to 50 states and millions of cameras.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're in schools, we're in healthcare systems, we're in places of worship, we're in casinos, gaming, we're in shopping malls, commercial properties, warehouses, we're on military bases.
Yeah.
It's
awesome. Well, it's really, really cool technology, super smart, and I'm honored to have you guys here, and proud as shit that 3 knuckle draggers from the East Coast, went through business school and are doing what you're doing. It's fucking awesome. I'm really proud of you guys. It's really cool.
Thanks, Mark.
I do have something for you guys. This is a new tradition. You guys are actually the first to receive it. I've got a friend / supporter out on the West Coast that is working with a custom metallurgist, I guess you'd call it, to produce these gifts for guests. So bear with me. You guys don't come across as people that necessarily dress in this attire, but the company is Champion's Choice Silver. So each of you get one of those. You can open them at the same time here in a second.
It's like Christmas.
Ooh, it's weighty.
And as well as the same guy, John, I appreciate your support. I'll maybe even bring you on one time. Coins with the emblem of both my company and the Mic Drop podcast on it, which is pretty neat. But
Very cool.
feel free to open the box up.
Oh shit! Look at this.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah, if you guys can show the camera. So this guy makes these custom, really really cool belt buckles, which here in Texas, those are a little more common than probably Philadelphia, but even that much more reason to wear them there, I guess. But so it's a Mic Drop custom buckle, and I really appreciate the support of the company and them doing that. So
Beautiful.
Very cool. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Anything you guys want to add before we wrap up?
Thank you.
No, thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
And this is awesome. We're going to have some stuff back to you. Because we are knuckle draggers. We totally forget. We have a bunch of swag and we have our own coins.
Oh, good, man.
So we'll get it to you in a minute.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a fascinating journey to me to kind of encompass what the SEAL community, special operations, and even military-wide community, to have 3 guys that I've never met or we've never met, but to be able to sit down and share life experiences and hear you guys, share all of the different experiences that you've been through and what it's meant to you and your path, not just in such diligent and respectful service to this great country, but also what you guys are doing to continue to serve both yourselves, your families, your communities, and your country with the company that you guys have created is truly inspiring, and I appreciate the hell out of them. I'm really proud of all 3 of you guys. So thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.